Hey, this is Brett Gursky. Welcome to another episode of On the List. This is episode number 64. It's April 2021. We are coming to you from the BLEAV podcast network. My guest today is a good friend of mine who's also a talented actor. You know him from his groundbreaking role of David Karofsky on the Emmy-winning television series GLEE. His latest movie, The Trial of the Chicago 7, is out on Netflix now, and it's also nominated for 6 Oscars, including Best Picture. Doesn't get much better than that. Of course, I'm talking about Max Adler. What's up, Max?
What's up, Brett? Thank you for having me. Good to be here, finally.
I know. Thanks for doing this. I felt like the timing
Uh,
was very good with your Oscar-nominated Best Picture. Felt like
well,
it.
my pleasure to be here. Congrats on 64 episodes.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
number
I
six.
can't tell if I'd rather be like on 65, like a nice even number,
Oh,
or 64 because of the Beatles song.
oh
Either way,
yeah.
it's a win-win being here with you. So,
Oh,
but yeah, pretty cool timing with the Oscars coming up and
amazing.
Trial of the Chicago 7. And I know I've told you about that movie since before it was even filming, and we've
Oh
talked a
yeah.
lot about it. And
Yeah,
you
we'll
called
get.
it that it would be nominated, and here we are.
I said it 2 years ago. Yeah, we'll get into all of that in a little bit.
Yeah, yeah,
So we haven't seen each other obviously since before the pandemic. We're on Zoom
yeah.
right now, so the video from the podcast will be available on YouTube and Instagram. So first of all, congrats on the movie, but
Thank you.
also even bigger congrats. In the last year, you became a dad.
Hmm.
You and your wife Jennifer had a baby, Dylan, and he was born March 27th, 2020. So he just turned 1, and that
Yes.
was 2 weeks after the world shut down with the
Yeah.
pandemic. So I
Yeah.
wanted to ask, first of all, how's fatherhood? But also, what was it like having a baby 2 weeks into quarantine and then spending most of his first year in lockdown? What's your life been like for the last year?
Man, this is the whole episode of the podcast right here.
Right.
Well, crazy when he was born for many reasons. Yeah, 3 weeks before that, everything, was fine as we knew it.
Right.
I was very, very big into my high school drama program, like super, all the plays, the musicals.
Yeah.
And our teacher was retiring like the first week of March. So me and a bunch of my best friends that we all know each other from high school drama, like did a big road trip. We're all out here kind of working different avenues of the industry. And
Nice.
we road trip, we went back there, we surprised the teacher, we watched the play, we like went back to the old high school stomping grounds, big reunion, like partied afterwards.
Wow.
And little did we know, like, this pandemic is kind of creeping in, and we were like, whoa, we were just in like a packed, auditorium. And then
Right.
3 days later was when it was like Tom Hanks has it, and like the NBA is shutting down. Like,
Right.
oh, this is serious. And we're like very pregnant. What's going on now? Like, and that was the whole, like, can I go into the room? Like,
Right.
does this affect, can we even go to hospitals? Are we now doing a home birth? Are we switching the plan? What's going on? On top of all of that, my wife's mom unexpectedly passed away on March 25th. We were in the OB's office for like our last checkup and got a call, and she had passed away. And so the shock of that kind of sped up the birth, and he was born 2 weeks earlier than we had anticipated. And so it was the wildest 48 hours I had ever experienced in my life. I mean, from the lowest low to the highest high, and seeing my wife go through, losing her mom to giving birth to our son. I was in the room. I was there every step of the way. It was all crazy, masks and like the hospital and temperature checks. It was like, this is like Terminator.
Hmm.
It was really, really nuts. And then, it was just kind of more wild after that. We thought, oh, cool, it'll be over by like April 15th. Oh, May 15th. Oh, July 4th for sure. Oh, Labor Day. I was like, oh, we're still here.
Yeah.
So it's been, ups and downs like everything. It's been kind of a blessing, the fact that I've not had a lot of work those like 4 or 5 months in the beginning. And I was just
Yeah.
like able to concentrate on being a dad and on the family and being, sleepless and not worrying about an audition or shooting the next day.
Right.
And then it's also been a blessing because my wife now is back to work, from home, and I'm able to do these, Zooms and self-tapes and meetings from home. So we're here with him a lot. But also weird because like all the, friends with kids that we wanted to hang out with and socialize him, we, go to, swim lessons or Gymboree classes or whatever we were going to do, kind of got shut down. Or even now when I take him to like a playground, it's that weird, like, well, I have to put my mask on, which
Right.
obviously I get and I respect, but he's just like always trying to pull it out. He was like, where are you, Dad? Like, he doesn't understand. And it's like, it didn't used to be like this, son. Like, one
Right.
day you'll see my face in public. But So there's just that weird like back and forth of like, you know, when we're home, there's like this beautiful, you know, kind of heavenly like normalcy. And then it's like you leave the house and it's like, boom, like slap in the face. Oh yeah, like we're not normal. And when will there be normal? Or is there a new normal? You know, will he ever experience a packed Hollywood Bowl?
He will.
Can he ever go to the ArcLight now? Like the ArcLight Cinerama Dome? Like what, you know, like all
They're
those
gonna
things I
save
thought
that.
would be like, I hope someone's got to save that.
Someone's gonna step in and save it. I think the
Someone
dome
has to.
itself. I heard the dome itself is a landmark, so I think but we have to keep it as a movie theater.
We have to all just chip in $5, everyone in LA, and save this thing. So, so, you know, yeah, all that. It's been, you know, tiring and exhausting and juggling a lot of, you know, producing and voiceovers and commercials and acting and, you know, family life and being a dad on, you know, little sleep. And so it's a lot of hats and a lot of very little downtime. I had a very chill life before and there's zero chill now.
Yeah.
But there is a magic to being a parent that I think only a parent can get of just the moments day to day and the laughing and the connecting and watching him grow and change and take in the world and see the world through his eyes. There is just life just expanded and feels so much bigger and more full. And I love it. So I can't even imagine life the other way,
right?
Except when I'm exhausted. And I was like, man, like sleeping in tomorrow sounds great. But then you see him like, you know, standing up in the crib, smiling at you. And it's just like, okay, like this is worth it. So yeah, it's been a year.
Wild. I get what you mean about the magic. I'm not a dad yet, but even as an uncle, like life changing, like just you see life again for the first time through their eyes. And it's super cool. And in your case, you know, like the whole world paused kind of for you to be able to just stop everything and be a dad. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause I was like, you know, it requires like 100% attention just to get a job from, you know, it's like, you know, oh, audition comes in, I got to read a 60-page script and memorize 11 pages by tomorrow. And I'm like, you know, so to not have that and just like be a dad and like not even have that coming into my inbox was kind of, you know, scary financially, but freeing emotionally. But yeah, like the latest thing, just dad story is like, you know, we have this backyard and we moved into a house because we needed more room for him to run around and walk. Right. Thank God we did it because the townhouse was not going to cut it. But now we have a nice, you know, backyard. And every time he hears or sees a plane, he just like stops what he's doing, drops his toys, and he just like looks up in wonder and like points. And he's like, and just watches it. And just, it's like so cute. And now every time I hear a plane, wherever I am, I'm just like, just like stop, you know, like I'm like, oh, like Dylan, you know, it's like, so it's just like little things like that, but like times 100. And it's just, you know, it's everything kind of makes you, you know, think of him and smile. And it's just it's quite a sensation, you know. It's amazing. So
you appreciate the little things, you know, that we would not normally stop and look up at a plane, but
no, and in wonder, and you're kind of reminded every day. You're like, oh yeah, like that is crazy. Like there's like this big metal thing with like hundreds of people flying in the sky and like going exactly where they want it to go.
Right.
Just so it's like little things like that, you know, or just sensations of food or colors or whatever. So for you know, as an actor, I think it's kind of a big blessing because you're kind of just like seeing everything with this childlike wonder and innocence. Which is kind of like the goal I feel like we all want to achieve anyway, is like experiencing things for the first time and, you know, genuinely believing what you're doing. So it's all kind of a full circle, you know, thing that's kind of meshed together in a weird way really well. But yeah.
I love that. Well, I want to give people some backstory. First of all, I want to say I feel like I had a little bit of a hand in your relationship with your wife, Jennifer.
You did.
Which, you know, ultimately led to the birth of your son, Dylan. I'll let you, you can sort of tell that.
You're pretty much, by the way, we're going to talk to you about the will. I think you're the godfather now.
Well, I'll take it. Sure. Well, I can't take credit for you guys meeting. Did you meet in acting class? How did you guys meet?
No, we met doing a play. I was working at a restaurant and just not able to get any roles. And I was like, I just need to act so bad. And I auditioned for a play, Much Ado About Nothing. You know, I was like, oh, let me try some Shakespeare, like a true actor does in LA.
Yeah.
And I got cast, and then I met her at the table read, and we like hit it off immediately. There, you know, there was some sparks, but she's like 4 years older than I am, and so a lot of the guys, I was like, what's her deal? You know, like, is she single? Beatrice? What's going on? And they were like, yeah, but she dates older guys with money. Like, she dates like a lawyer. Like, you have no shot. You're just like a broke loser actor, like working at a restaurant. I was like, God damn it. But you came in because I was like, but I know Brett Gursky. And if you know Brett Gursky, you're going to look like a baller. And you did, because so you and I met through Kellen Lutz
Kellen
at
Lutz.
the Stone Rose Hotel, I think, right?
Yeah, so yeah, well, it was the Sofitel Hotel. There was a lounge there that Randy Gerber owns called called Stone
Stone
Rose,
Rose.
and I was
Yeah,
doing
real
yeah. I guess
Texas
this takes
spot.
it back. So this takes it back. We'll go a little further back. So 2008, we'll start with that. Stone Rose.
Yep.
Helen Lutz, I've known since like 2005, and
Who I went to high school, well, middle school with, and high school with. So
it
yeah,
was
yep,
crazy.
we go
Yeah,
back.
so I vividly remember the moment we were introduced because Kellen used to come to every, Wednesday night party at Stone Rose and we'd always hang out and, we did a Twilight wrap party for him and Ashley there
Oh yeah,
because
huge.
like Summit, well, at the time, Summit didn't realize what they had on their hands, how big the movie was, so they didn't throw them a wrap party. So I knew Kellen and
Wow.
Ashley, so I threw them a wrap party when they got back to LA. And,
Wow.
Catherine Hardwick, the director, came and she put in some money for food from the restaurant in the hotel.
Wow.
Like
Like
there
a
was a
do-it-yourself
makeshift
party.
do
Wow.
it yourself wrap party, yeah. But
Wow.
Robert Pattinson came and Kristen Stewart came, but no one really realized who they were. This was
Where they were
May
gonna go.
Right, May 2008. And I'm not kidding. 6 months later, I went to the premiere, and there were lines to meet them at the after party. 6 months, their lives changed completely of that
You're
movie
like,
coming out. It was wild,
I threw you a party. Like,
right?
let me in.
Well, they definitely all remember. Yeah, no, we went
Oh,
and
that's
celebrated
awesome.
that night. But I remember thinking at the premiere, this is like the last night their lives are sort of normal, and after
Yeah.
this movie comes out, and then it turned into a 5 movie
Oh,
franchise,
phenomenon. Yeah.
changed their
Yeah.
lives. So yeah, so
Right.
Kellen used to come on Wednesdays, and one day he brings his friend Max, and he's like, "This is my friend Max Adler. We went to high school together." So I'm like, "Oh, how cool! You have a high school friend in town. Like,
Yep.
you both moved to LA." And then I was like, "What brings you to LA?" And you said, "I'm an actor." And I remember thinking, how cool would that be if two friends from high school both make it in Hollywood? And a
Yeah.
year later, you got Glee, which we'll talk about. But so explain, I guess were you new to LA at that point in 2008, or you'd been here for a little while?
I moved here in '04.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
So I graduated high school in '04, and I
Oh, okay.
moved here. I worked all summer in Arizona, saved up some money, not, $3,000, which is like the most I had ever in my account. But
Yeah.
then in LA, it was gone in about, 12 seconds.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I had been here, I did a couple commercials, like, I did the rigmarole of, the day job, trying to get an agent, but nothing big. But, and I knew of Kellen. I think he knew of me in high school,
Oh,
but we
okay.
weren't like buddies. We know he was like a year older, which in high school was like
A lot.
eons. Like it was like, oh, you don't, he's a senior, I'm only a junior. But it was like a mutual friend of ours came out to visit Kellen, I think, '06, '07. It was when he was doing like the comeback on HBO.
Right.
And I was like, oh, like I'm visiting my friend Kellen, like he's throwing like a house party tonight. And I was like, oh shit, like that's crazy. Like I know of him, like I'd love to connect with him. Like,
Oh, cool.
and he ended up, I think his house was like 7 minutes away from where I was living, which I was like, that's awesome and convenient.
Yeah.
So I showed up, and then we kind of just like, reconnected, and then
Oh, cool.
became like friends from that point. And then he would just kind of take me out, around, and introduce me out and about around town, and it was like the coolest thing to roll around with him,
Yeah.
at that time period, and like
Yeah.
he knew you like the guy at the door, and like had the cool table with the bottles, and so
Yeah.
I was just, I don't know, 21, 22, and so I was like, this is the way to like do LA.
Yeah.
So yes, so you and I connected, and I think exchanged numbers, and there was the thing where like, well, man, like if I could look like Kellen one day, if I could hit up Brett and like bring a gal to the front and skip the line and like get in and have the cool table. So I did with Jen. I think one of our very, very first, probably our third date. I think our first kiss was at Goa nightclub, which you were running, and it was that. It was like, play rehearsal ended, and I drove her up, and we skipped the line, went to the front, and I was like, oh, I know Brett Gursky. And you let us right in. We had a table with like the bottles and the sparklers, and I looked great. And
I remember we have pictures from that night. I thought it was like your first day, but maybe it was your third day. But yeah, we have pictures.
Our third, first day was Casa Vega,
Okay.
classic little just talk
Right.
restaurant, make sure we're all good. We had a
Right.
great time then. I think second day it was like home. We watched Across the Universe at my
nice.
place for like her birthday, and then we went out to the club scene,
Nice.
and did the whole dancing and kissing and hand holding.
I remember getting I remember getting a text from you saying like, I'm out with this girl, I really like her, where can we come by wherever you are? And at that point, yeah, I was doing a Saturday night party at Goa. Michael Sutton owned that place. Yeah. So I remember I was in the booth with like Chris Evans and Kristen Cavallari and all our friends. And
that was before Chris Evans. I was like, oh man, like I saw another teen movie, like cute, you know?
Yeah.
And now he's like Chris Evans.
Captain America. Yeah, exactly. I remember us all sitting in the booth, you know, hanging out. I remember texting the door guy like Max Adler +1, let them in. And that's kind of how
I was doing my T9 word, trying to be like, no, CCC, BBB.
But it had a Hollywood ending.
But even since then, dude, like New Year's in New York, you hooked it up. I think we went to like, One Oak or like Lavo because of you. Just various events for like the last decade has been, courtesy of Brett Gursky. So thank you. Thanks for always making me look like great and cooler than I am. And and yeah, I mean, it's funny because you've known us, as a couple since we knew each other as a couple. So what a ride. And now we've got a kid. So pretty nuts. Yeah.
I remember a few years later you were engaged, then you were married, now you have their baby. It's like
in
a real Hollywood.
Checked off all the boxes. Yeah, exactly. It's
fairy tale.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Well, I mean, that explains kind of how we know each other. So you know what? Actually, I realized also I got to direct you and Kellen in that PSA for the Get Schooled Foundation.
At Lance Bass's house. Yes,
I used Lance Bass's. Yeah, I was thinking about it. I knew we'd work together in some capacity. So it was a campaign for the Get Schooled Foundation, telling kids to stay in school and giving statistics about school. And so I asked my friends who were actors on shows either about high school or college, set in school. So, Max Adler represented Glee and Kellen represented Twilight and Michael B. Jordan for Friday Night Lights and like 10 or 12 friends. We did this PSA, this 30-second spot. And it ended up winning the competition to be.
You did a great job.
It aired on MTV during the Barack Obama town hall, which was like huge for me. This is like 2010.
Huge for all of us.
Yeah, it was so cool. Yeah, and so
because you cared, you were passionate, you were prepped. Like whereas I was like, yeah, we should probably do this because really your enthusiasm for it was very apparent. So like, hell yeah, let's do it. So congrats.
We had zero budget. That was all favors, and it was really nice. And now looking back, I'm like, everyone in that PSA has like gone on to have a great career, which is so cool.
Yeah, Michael B. Jordan, he's doing all right.
Michael B. Jordan's doing all right.
That's so crazy. And that's actually, again, I met him through. Here's again crazy full circle with you always at the center. You're like the nucleus. Michael B. Jordan I met at the back room of Bootsy Bellows, which you were also running for a while. And that's where we first met. And then obviously that's David Arquette's, club. Yeah. And David Arquette and I just did a movie together that went to Sundance last year. Right. And I just talked to him like days ago about another movie that me and my wife Jen had an idea for the script, and we got a writer to write it, and David could be perfect for the lead. So I was talking to him about that. But just a wild, full circle thing of being in LA for 15 years. It's nuts.
Totally. It was cool for me too. Like I grew up, loving the Scream movies with David Arquette, and then all of a sudden I was throwing a party in the back room of a club that he was part owner of, named after his mom. It was his mom's stage name. Bootsy Bellows, like her burlesque name. So cool. Yeah, it's cool. But David Arquette's been on this podcast. Kellen Lutz has been on the podcast. And now, finally, Max.
Oh, right.
On the podcast. Great. Yeah. Awesome. So, like I said, Trial of Chicago 7's nominated for 6 Oscars, which is major. It's got to be surreal, growing up wanting to be an actor, and then all of a sudden your movie's nominated for Best Picture. So nominated for Best Picture, Best Original Screenplay, Aaron Sorkin, Best Supporting Actor, Sacha Baron Cohen, who you worked with in it, Best Cinematography, Best Editing, and Best Original Song. Great categories. The Oscars are going to be on Sunday, April 25th, and that's when we'll find out who wins. And I'm kind of known for making my Oscar prediction. I've written a lot of articles over the years. I've
Gold Derby Gursky.
I know. I should have been part of that site, but I started writing articles about it for the Daily Orange, which was the newspaper at Syracuse where I went to college, and where Aaron Sorkin also went to college. But last year I got 22 out of 24 correct. The only ones I got wrong were major. It was director and picture for Parasite, because I went with 1917 because it looked like it was going that way. Yeah. But Parasite had won the SAG Award for Best Ensemble. So had I gone with that, I would have gotten them all right. And I bring that up.
I do believe this year the SAG Award Ensemble was Chicago 7.
That's why I bring it up.
We'll see. I guess you don't know, but yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, there's a historical thing that a lot of times the winner of the SAG Ensemble Award goes on to win Best Picture, because the actors are the biggest voting branch for
Well,
the Oscars.
there's quite a lot of amazing actors in it, you know. So yeah. I mean, as you know, so I don't know, we can get into it now, but I had an opportunity to find an investor for Trial of the Chicago 7, because what happened was I had done, there's another movie with the studio Cross Creek called The Tax Collector that David Ayer directed and Shia LaBeouf was in. And they needed extra money for post-production. And I just kind of happened to cross paths with the person who needed that money. And I had an investor friend who did invest in it. And then so I got in with the studio. And they came to me with Chicago 7. And I was like, isn't everyone throwing money at this? But, you know, it's movies are crazy. And everyone's like, well, I don't know about historical pictures, and really only America cares, not the world. So I don't know how it'll do foreign box office. And, you know, at the time Seth Rogen was in, but then Seth Rogen dropped out. And they're like, well, now like, we're going to lose all this audience. And, you know, it's such like a algorithm and a formula that really no one realizes just watching, like, you know, like the business behind it, and how, like, you know, each person and each day and each location translates to dollars.
Now it looks like it's just a Netflix movie. Like, that must have been easy. Netflix gave them all the money and they made it, but that didn't happen until after it was made.
Correct. Netflix saved the movie. It was just like, it was a Paramount, you know, Amblin movie that was going to be in theaters, and then we shot it, and then pandemic happened and theaters stopped, and so Netflix came in and luckily saved the day, and investors did make their money back. So through people, I did find, you know, an investor to put money into the movie. But at that point, the movie hadn't been shot yet, and I said to the guy in the studio, I was just like, look, like, this is the second time I've helped out. You know, appreciate the credit, and, like, you know, knowing you're welcome, but also, like, I am an actor and I would like to be in this movie. I did read the script. I think there's several parts I could play. And he was basically just like, well, look, you know, Aaron Sorkin is the guy. Like, he's directing it. He wrote it. Like, no one tells him what to do. So, like, good luck. Like, we can get you an audition. I was like, that's all. Like, just get me in front of him. So he did. So then he sent me like an audition for like one role. And then I came back and I was like, no. Like, there's like 5 roles I want to read for. And then we like negotiated, and casting director Francine Maisler was like, I'll see him for 3. I was like, fine. So I worked on it with my coach for like 5 hours. You know, it was like 20 pages, and went in, thought I did a great job. Like, one of my better auditions. I was just like so prepared. You know, I'd gone over it like all weekend. I was like, Jen, I'm locking myself in my room. Like, I'll come out for a meal. I'm going back in. It was like 14 hours on a Sunday. I was just like, you know, like memorizing and working at it. Went in, and then weeks later, I heard that I booked a part, but then I didn't even know who that. I was like, who? And then I called the studio guy, and I was like, thank you, but who? He's like, I don't know who that is. And I was like, what the hell am I playing? So I had to go. So it turned out that all the roles I did audition for, Sorkin liked me for, but I wasn't right physically or, you know, age wise or whatever he wanted to do, but he liked me enough that he was just like, let's give him this part. So that part was mine. I was in the movie, and it was great. So small part, as you and everyone knows, but what was so cool was that I got to shoot for 2 weeks in Chicago and then several days in Jersey. So it was actually awesome because Chicago was just, you know, kind of marching and doing the protests. So there really wasn't a lot of memorizing or work to do. It was just kind of like showing up, putting on the cool, you know, 68, you know, gear, and hanging with these guys all day, walking around the streets of Chicago, you know, going to the hotel room, you know, having a meal, like talking with them, having like, it's like, and just hearing about, you know, Joseph Gordon-Levitt and, you know, Sacha Baron Cohen, you know, their lives and families and politics. And, you know, Sorkin was talking about, you know, every day a New York Times article would come up about Trump or, you know, this protest or that protest, and how, you know, what we're doing is so big and so relevant. And, you know, then we'd come out and there's like 200 background actors, like, you know, marching, and, you know, they have all the gear on. And it was just this amazing experience that felt really special. And like you said, when I had come to you to see if you had anybody to invest, you know, like, I was like, this is a special movie that hopefully will be nominated. And just working with those actors was surreal. And then New Jersey was all the courtroom stuff. They had like it was an old church that they had converted into a courtroom. Because no one was going to church. It was like old and abandoned. So it was basically like a really good, it's kind of a steal of a deal that looked exactly like the aesthetic from the courtroom. So that was the most surreal, because then I was just sitting in the witness stand, and it's like, you know, I'm doing scenes. It's like Frank Langella's right there, and like Mark Rylance and Gordon Levitt. You know, I'm just kind of like rehearsing, and I'm like, this is insane that I'm like doing like a speed read of like Sorkin's watching. Like, there's like Mark Rylance, who like has blown me away on Broadway so many times that I've seen him with Jen. I'm like, that actor is like insane. And all of a sudden I'm like, you know, going over stuff with him. So it just, yeah. So I was like, you know, at the end of the day, end result, it's a super small part. But for me personally, like, what an experience that was. And even now it's been cool because I just auditioned for Sorkin's latest movie about Lucille Ball, which I didn't get. Same thing. Like, you know, he's like, I love you. Like, you were great in Chicago 7, but not quite right. You know, it's like, it was like for like an exec at CBS who is supposed to be like in the 60s, which, you know, even though I'm a dad, I can't quite play that old, but he tried, didn't work. But just the fact that I have that relationship now, and yeah, am a part of this movie that is now nominated, that has won so many awards, that, you know, I do have producer credit on because of the help with the money. Exactly. It's all a very, very, very cool, awesome thing. So yeah,
it's so really great. Cool. Everyone you mentioned is like at the top of their game, and you're right there along with them. It's so cool. It's so awesome.
I mean, and that's the best thing. Everyone was so friendly and modest too. It was like, you know, like Yaya, no one knew who the hell he was. You know, we're like, oh man, like lucky for you, you get to play Bobby Seale. But you know, all of a sudden it's like, well, you know, Watchmen, and he's doing, you know, the Aquaman, and it's just like, you know, he's winning awards and blowing up, and he's so good in the movie. But he's, you know, just like the nicest, most humble, you know, sweetest guy. And really everyone down the line was so sweet. Even Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who, you know, we've been watching since, you know, 7 years old, Angels in the Outfield, could just like, you know, just sat next to me in the courtroom and was just like, so what's going on? Like, you know, how's your day? And like, you know, where do you live? I'm like, you cared? Like, okay, like this is, you know, what a good guy. And I'm like, that's cool. There's a reason these people have longevity, I think, and work all the time, because like they're just like a delight to be around, and they know their shit. Like, they're prepared, they're good, and they're nice. So yeah, really cool to be a part of that story at that time in the world with all the protests going on and like fighting against, you know, the government.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, so for people who might not know, the movie's a true story about the Chicago 7. They were a group of anti-Vietnam protesters who were charged with conspiracy and crossing state lines with the intention of inciting riots at the 1968 Democratic National Convention in Chicago. And I mean, who knew that a movie about inciting riots could be so timely in 2021?
The most timely. And that's what's crazy too. A little history was that this movie has been kind of almost been made for like 14 years. Like it was like Sacha Baron Cohen, I think, studied like Abby Hoffman and like that kind of revolutionary you know, time in college, and like wanted to play Abby for 14 years. And it was something where like at the time it was like Spielberg was going to direct it, and they had Heath Ledger attached for Eddie Redmayne's part, and Will Smith was Yaya's part. And again, you know, something, you know, scheduling or money or something falls through, and then I think it kind of like got revamped again. It was like Paul Greengrass was going to do it with like DiCaprio playing Tom Hayden. And I think like Ben Stiller was like somehow involved. He's like a producer, director. It had like all these different kind of like iterations of it. And then finally now, you know, Sorkin was like, I'll direct it. And then, yeah, little did everyone know, I think, that, you know, as we were making it, there would be riots, you know, and it was Portland and Seattle, you know, Minneapolis, everywhere across the whole nation. People were up in arms, and it was this, you know, you see the government sending, you know, tear gas and batons and people fighting. And it was like a really wild thing to be like, wow, 50 years. And we're still, you know, marching against the man for what we believe in. And even crazier was that, you know, you think, oh, Hollywood, everyone was kind of around the same age. And we're all kind of talking at lunch, and we're like, oh yeah, like we all obviously kind of took the side of the rioters. But then, like, you know, you're talking to like the fire marshal on set, or, you know, the security guards who are a little bit older, you know, maybe 60s or whatever. And they're like, oh, I was here when, you know, that shit went down. And like, man, like, you know, the mayor really put his foot down. And it was a great thing to see, you know, those hooligans breaking restaurants. I was like, oh, like, oh, okay, like it still is a little divided, you know, what a divisive thing. Like, people like on this set have like very, very strong opinions about what was right. And it was like, you know, they were like, of course you go to war. Like, that's what the government says. Like, you fight for your country. Like, you know, screw you for rioting. And then everyone's like, yeah, like, you know, go protesters. And so it was like, you kind of felt that a little bit too on set, where it just kind of, you know, elevated everything. And then beyond that, Jeremy Strong, who I love from Succession, is very, very method, and would go. We had a bunch of real cops playing cops in the 60s, but it was like, you know, we had like the real police force. And he was just going to town improvising about, that they're pigs and, their family's pigs and, they smell bacon. And, like, he was just riling them up to the point where he's like, Aaron, like, call action now. And it was like, we like would charge at each other. And we're like, oh my God, like these guys are really going to hit us. Like they think we're a bunch of like, asshole actors. And so it was, and then at the end it was all cool. Everyone shook hands and hugged, but
Yeah.
it was like, it felt very, very tense. And again, just to be there in that moment and I'll always have that with me. It was like, very cool. And obviously it translated onto the screen because it resonated. So just a lot of learning on that movie for sure. Just to be a fly on that wall, I was lucky,
So cool. Yeah. And I feel like Aaron Sorkin's attention to detail would be so great that it probably felt like you were back in 1968. Like all the things, the costume, the set design, all of it.
Well, even as I think I posted about it on Instagram, it was kind of a joke, but really serious, was that when my character meets Sacha Baron Cohen, and like I'm a cop, but I'm posing as like an undercover biker to kind of get in. It was a real guy who in the real story kind of had a much bigger circumstance, like a much bigger situation of how he infiltrated with these guys. Like he had like a fake apartment, a fake girlfriend, like changed his appearance. Like he was like fully undercover for 4 months, gathering intel. But the conversation was like, how do I greet him? And it was like a 15-minute thing. We had to talk to the consultants. Was like, is it a handshake? But like, that looks too formal. Is it a high five? That's weird. Is it a fist bump? No, that's too modern. Do we not do anything? Do we
kind of like
it was like one of these things where it's like, we're brothers in this, and then that was a conversation of like, but is that like a Black Power thing or a Black Panther thing? And then it was like, no. So it was like I'm like, we're really talking about all this, for like an eighth of a second of a handshake. But yes. And then crazy, the set photographer like got a picture of that, and then that's been circulating now. So it's just a weird thing. Like, who knew that moment? It's just one of those weird things.
Well, every time Gold Derby says, Trial of Chicago 7's in the lead, they use that picture of you and Sacha. I think it's like a smiling picture. It looks like a happy picture as opposed to all. It
just makes Sacha look great, and he looks badass, and I'm just lucky to be there. But the point is, the attention to detail was great, and how fortunate for us as actors to be taken care of like that, and just trust, like knowing that like whatever we do is like, he's gonna make this work and look great,
Yeah, I remember I heard Aaron Sorkin talk about how Steven Spielberg once like called him in for a meeting, based off all his history, like A Few Good Men and West Wing, all his political stuff, as like you said, probably 14, 15 years ago, and said, I'd like you to write The Trial of Chicago 7 for Spielberg to direct. And I guess, it was one of those things, Sorkin just, it meant so much to him, that script, that he couldn't let it go, and he was getting it made however he had to, even if he was directing it himself, which ultimately happened. And so when you sent me the script, I looked back, it was April 2019, so exactly 2 years ago. You sent me the information about this movie, and it was just an immediate reaction that I had where I was like, that's an Oscar movie. It's Aaron Sorkin writing and directing it. It's a true story. It's Eddie Redmayne, Sacha Baron Cohen. And I think the budget was like 30 million and they needed 3 million more. And I remember thinking like, how is this movie not fully financed with that cast? It's going to be an Oscar movie. So I sent it to someone that I knew who does, producing and gets financing for movies, thinking this is a no-brainer Oscar movie. Do you want your name on an Oscar nominee, for Best Picture, which it is now? And I sent it. And at first they were kind of like, this seems too good to be true. Why does this movie?
It does.
It did. And like, why does this movie need money? How come it doesn't have all the money with that cast? And I was like, I don't know, but this is the situation and they need an answer. And they were kind of like, it seems too good to be true. And they waited on it. And then by the time they came back around and said, you know what? Yes. I came back to you and I said, they said yes. And you were like, it's too late. They got the money another way. Luckily it was you. So you still got the, you still got the co-executive producer credit. Yeah. But I was like, I can't believe I was this close to also having my name on that movie, because I know it's going to be nominated.
Well, the next time, hopefully the guy pulls the trigger immediately and just trusts that you're bringing him good stuff. But I mean, it does. It feels too good to be true, but it was, it was real. And then, here we are, and here it is. So pretty crazy.
And we're almost days away from the Oscars, and we'll see what happens.
But that's what was also great about Sorkin too, because I think he had only I think he had only directed Molly's Game. I think
Molly's
he
Game.
one job directing. So that's why he had this modesty. You know, we were all intimidated because it's like, oh my gosh, it's Aaron Sorkin. But he really came kind of like, you know, hat in hand. And we're just like, you know, you guys have all been on like sets probably more than I have. And like, you know, like, I'm just the writer. Like, this is a big thing for me. Like, so it was like, please, like, come to me if you have any concerns or like if I'm wrong. And we're just like, okay. Like, we thought we were like, you know, you better say every word, right? You know what I mean? But he was very, very, very cool and very modest about just, you know, where he is as a director. And just made it very, very comfortable and safe. And so, yeah, it was really, really awesome.
Yeah. I mean, he's been writing shows and movies that we've watched since the 90s, you know. You mentioned your character, so it's Officer Stan Wojciechowski, is that how you say it?
Yeah, Wojciechowski, yeah.
Wojciechowski, and he's a real person, obviously. It almost sounds like, which I didn't know till this conversation, he could have had his own movie, you know, just based on him.
Yeah, well, that's what I was hoping. I was like, where's the spinoff, you know? But no, so it was not his real name. They changed his name for safety, but yeah, like in doing research for it, I found like the documents, like the court documents from his testimony. And yeah, it was basically like, you know, as you kind of see in the movie, that the police had several informants and undercover people, you know, and so this guy was one of them who, like, the biker gangs were very, very big into the riots. And so this cop kind of like, you know, and, you know, cops then very clean shaven. So, you know, he grew out his hair, dirtied his finger, like really like went away from his family, rented an apartment like in a, you know, shitty part of town, like had like a fake girlfriend that was like there in case he ever brought guys home, and was just kind of like living this life as like, hey, like I'm a biker, you're a biker, like let's, you know, let's fuck with the man and like let's do this. But then, you know, oh hey, like, you know, talk to the cops. It's like, hey, at 11 o'clock they're gonna meet like at this light post, you know, at this street, or hey, you know, this restaurant 4 p.m. like these guys are gonna be there. And so the cops were always one step ahead, which you kind of see a little bit of the movie of, you know, why they always knew where these guys were going to be. So yeah, like what a, you know, definitely like more complicated in real life than you know, the 5 seconds in the film. But knowing that was very cool. And again, that was a conversation because I showed up. I knew I was going to get the movie. I booked the movie maybe 5 weeks before I went to Chicago. So I just like let this grow, and kind of came. I was like, oh, you know, I did my research and I know that, you know, he didn't cut his beard, but they were like, that was a conversation where it was like, well, it's too modern. And then, you know, we're going to see you in the courtroom and, you know, you can't go from this to like clean shaven because people might not remember like who that was. Okay. So that was like a whole conversation of like Sorkin was just like, what if we did, you know, like some chops and like, you know, like a bigger mustache. Then like in the courtroom, we like take the chops and like make the mustache a little bit smaller, and like that's recognizable but different enough. And like that was like, you know, like hours in the trailer of back and forth. But it was very, very cool. Yeah. And it looked fun. I was like, man, that's a cool period for me. I wish I could just rock the chops all the time now, but that would be weird and limiting. But
was there footage of the trial or transcripts or anything you could look at from the real guy?
Yeah, it's online now. I don't know, I forgot his actual name now because it's been a couple of years, but yeah, it's there was, you can just type in like, you know, trial of the Chicago 7 like court testimonies or like court documents, and it's like, you know, 30 something pages, like, you know, like the court report, like line by line. And that's why
read it. I feel like Aaron Sorkin would almost keep it as real and accurate to the real thing as possible.
Took a lot of it, and it certainly informed like their characters. You know, he probably, I'm sure, cut some stuff or skips, you know, make it more dramatic and entertaining and you know, fast paced. But you definitely get a sense that, you know, the judge was a little out of sorts, and like it was definitely stacked in the government's favor, and there was like some kooky stuff at play, and stuff with Bobby Seale was true and was terrible, and the fact that, you know, bound and gagged a man in the courtroom, and it's just like, wow, like, yeah, it's a nutty trial, and honestly something I never even knew about. When it was, you know, I told, like, I remember like my wife's mom or like my dad, I was like, there's this movie, like, you ever hear of like the Chicago 7? Like, oh yeah, like Tom Hayden and Jerry Rubin. I was like, you know their names? And they're like, oh yeah, it was a big thing. I was like, oh shit, like they didn't tell me that in history class, you know?
Yeah, we never were taught that.
But I actually think, speaking of your story with Sorkin when Spielberg asked him to write it, I think that I read that same interview, and I feel like Sorkin didn't really know about it as well, or maybe like knew about it, but like not into the details.
Or maybe he agreed. Was it that he agreed because it was Spielberg asking, pretending he knew what it was? I think that might be it.
And something like that, where it was like, oh yeah, but then he like did his research really quickly, and then it was like, let me like take this home and think about it. But it was something where like he didn't really know what Spielberg was
I think he
talking
just said
about.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah, he was, of course, you know. But then obviously he became so familiar with it, you know. So yeah.
Yeah, and I want to add also his screenplay won Best Screenplay at the Golden Globes. That's when the awards were all starting. And then, like we said, the ensemble won the SAG Award. So let's talk about the ensemble, because just make sure we mention everybody that you got to be in this movie with. So Eddie Redmayne played Tom Hayden. I'm actually friends with Tom Hayden's son in real life, Troy Garrity. He's an actor.
Oh, yeah. They're very Hollywood kind of family because of
Yeah,
Jane Fonda, right?
yeah, his mom is
Yeah.
Jane Fonda, and his dad was Tom Hayden. And he could have played his dad. That would have been pretty cool.
That would have been nuts.
They
Yeah,
look
but
very
Eddie
alike.
Redmayne. I mean, I'm sure Troy's great, but
No, Eddie did a
Eddie
great
Redmayne's
job
Eddie
too.
Redmayne. You know?
Yeah. And then, of course, Sacha Baron Cohen, we said, plays Abby Hoffman, nominated for the role. Jeremy Strong is actually is a friend of mine. I met him through Chris Evans. He was out in L.A. He lives in New York, but he was in L.A. like 5 years ago or whatever for pilot season. And I remember saying, like, what kind of show do you want? Like a comedy, a drama, you know, kind of like when I met you, like, what do you want to do? And he was like, I'd like to do a drama. He gets Succession, you know, a few years after that, wins the Emmy for Best Actor in a drama series. I mean, it's amazing to meet someone when they're looking for the project that's going to change their life, and to actually see them shortly after get it and win awards for it. I mean,
so good. And that
amazing.
was the thing where I think there had been like relationships for years, because I think it was like Adam McKay and him knew each other, and he was like in The Big Short and all that kind of stuff. And I think Adam was involved with Succession.
Well, he's also
Baszler.
Jeremy Strong's in Molly's Game, which was Aaron Sorkin's first movie that he directed.
Because that was Seth Rogen's part. And when Seth dropped out, Jeremy came in, and I was like, well, that's a interesting. I mean, he killed it. And it would have been so much different if it was Seth. But yeah, he's really good. He's really good in Succession, and he was great in the movie. And I don't think I ever really met him, because he was always, I mean, even at night at dinner, you know, he's like, hey man, like, how about the lemonade? How's that? You know, I was like,
he's stealing
like, this guy for real, but he was in it, and like it pays off because he's cool. So good. So yeah.
Jeremy plays Jerry Rubin. Alex Sharp plays Rennie Davis. John Carroll Lynch, David Dellinger, Noah Robbins, Lee Weiner, and Daniel Flaherty, John Froines. How do you say that?
Yep, John Froines, yeah.
Yeah, and so the rest of the cast, you mentioned him, Mark Rylance, who's an Oscar winner for Bridge of Spies, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Frank Langella, and Michael Keaton. First of all, Michael Keaton just became...
alone.
But, you know, he's the first person to win the SAG Ensemble Award 3 times. Birdman, Spotlight, and now The Trials of the Chicago 7. I mean, and he also, small role, but memorable, you know? And he wanted to do it. He loved the script. He wanted to work with Aaron Sorkin. So there's no small roles, just small.
No, thank you. And Thomas Middleditch. He's going through some stuff now, but he was in the movie.
That's true.
So that was one of the parts I auditioned for. It was written as this kind of like, you know, bookish, like by the rules, you know, and saying, I put the glasses on, I did the tie, I kind of, you know, but I was like, oh, Thomas Middleditch, like, yeah, he is that guy. Like, you can't compete. Like, he's the guy. But he's great too. So yeah, amazing cast.
Amazing cast. So I know the Oscars are being kept very small this year. Any other year, you maybe could have gone.
I know.
So what's your plans for Oscar night? How are you going to celebrate a 6-time nominated movie?
Well, the night before, my wife and I are going to have our first night away from the baby. We're doing a hotel with a few other couples. They're going to be in, you know, other rooms, obviously, and just kind of have like you know, a pool day, have some drinks, do a dinner. You know, we're all vaccinated, and you know, we'll be safe and do what we got to do. But just, you know, for a year, no matter what we do or where we go or how late we're up, like, you know, 6:30 a.m., baby's crying, we're up, breakfast, bottles. So we're just kind of looking forward to like a hotel bed and waking up when we want and having some room service.
Cool.
And so Dylan's gonna go to Jen's aunt's place and hang out there. I don't know, maybe we'll feel terribly guilty and we'll miss him and we'll call it short, but right now that's the plan. And then just kind of watch the Oscars and, you know, have some champagne and some charcuterie and, you know, fingers crossed. But yeah, again, blessing and a curse. Because like any other year, between being a producer on it and being in it, I'm sure I would have been like hitting up the parties. But again, that would have been hard because like I'm a dad, baby's at home. Like I don't know that I could just, you know, bounce around to, you know, the chateau at 11 and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So part of me is like, because I have major FOMO, and I'm like,
Yeah.
great, like I'm not missing a damn thing. Like
Right.
this is awesome. Like
Right.
everyone's watching from home, like, you know. So there's that element, but also just like the once in a lifetime thing, you know, because I was in Sully, and I think there was like buzz on
That's
Sully.
right.
Oh, Clint
Yeah.
Eastwood, Tom Hanks, like Oscars, but like it, you know, it wasn't fine. But like the
Yeah.
fact, like this, you know, I have 15 years I've been around, and like now it's like I'm in a movie that's nominated, but like there's nothing going on.
Yeah.
Blessing and a curse, you know. But again, with the Glee stuff, there was quite a lot of parties we got invited to and we got to hit up. So I feel like we at least we had that, you know, moment. We got that out of our system, and so now we can embrace the parental kind of life and responsibilities. But yeah, so that's what I'm going to be doing, just kind of watching with everybody else, you know.
Yeah,
and,
it won't be once in a lifetime. I think you'll have other opportunities to go to the Oscars. You know, you're on your way.
I hope so.
But I wanted to go over the Oscar nominations because I haven't done this yet on the podcast, just to give people an idea before the Oscars happen. So I'm just going to go through the major categories and say what's nominated and kind of what we think's going to happen. If you've seen any, feel free to chime in.
I don't get to watch much these days, but I'll chime in if I know something.
Okay, so Best Picture, the nominees in alphabetical order are The Father, Judas and the Black Messiah, Mank, Minari, Nomadland, Promising Young Woman, Sound of Metal, and The Trial of the Chicago 7. Now, there's only 8 nominees. There can be up to 10. I wish they would just always make it 10. It would be so awesome. They always make it, the weighted voting, and it ends up being 5 to 10. But I think a couple movies, I was surprised Ma Rainey, I thought would get in there. Soul, I thought would get in there for Best Picture. Yeah. But the race has seemed to come down to Nomadland versus The Trial of the Chicago 7. It looks like it's definitely going to be one of those two. So Nomadland got the Golden Globe, Critics' Choice, and BAFTA, but Trial of Chicago 7 got the SAG Ensemble. So they say, it's usually one of those being the precursor. So you guys have a really good chance. There's a 50-50 chance that it goes your way.
Well, weirdly enough, I will admit, and not to offend anyone, because I know Nomadland was hard to make, and they did a hell of a job. But that was actually, I think, out of all the nominations, the only one I've seen, because we were so looking forward to that, and we love Frances McDormand, and so we watched that.
Yeah. And
I don't know, I didn't love it. I really, really wanted to love it. I wanted to be blown away and get something from it. And I don't know if it was my mood or whatever my state of mind was in, but I didn't love the movie, and it wasn't as good as I was hoping. So if it is between those two, I'm hoping Trial of the Chicago 7.
Yeah.
But I really do want to see Sound of Metal. I heard that's amazing. I want to see Promising Young Woman.
Yeah.
I want to see Minari.
Yeah.
Really bad.
Great. I love Minari.
So we just watched. You'll probably love this. You may really love it. But it's the Jew in us. But Shiva Baby. Have you heard about Shiva Baby?
I watched it. I watched it the day it came out because I'd been hearing about it. Yeah.
Same, because my co-star from Glee, Diana Agron.
Yeah, Diana Agron.
And that's how I even knew about it. I
was
posting about it.
Do you know what's funny? That Diana Agron is one of the only people in the movie who's actually Jewish. And she's playing the non-Jewish character, which I thought was so funny. A lot of the actors in the movie are not Jewish. I know.
I found that out. I know.
Yeah.
So, but great. I'm like, that's my kind of movie. Like, that was like, my heart was racing. I was like, this is like an afternoon party, but it felt like a horror film. Like, I was like jumping and like,
they did kind of like anxious. They did like that Black Swan score where it's like very tense. And
or like
I read about it
or something.
Yeah, I read about it. They had very low budget, I think.
Yeah, it was like a 24-year-old directed it, like right out of NYU.
A graduate from NYU, based on a short film. I actually found the short film online. You can find it, and it's like basically the first like 7 minutes of the movie. But
really good.
She got the financing, and now HBO is doing Sugar Baby. They're going to do a show with the same kind of concept and kind of character. Amazing.
Good for her. I mean, it's anyway. So random that it's not nominated. It's not being talked about. But
it just came out. So maybe next year.
Right. Oh, right. Well, maybe. But anyways, that was good. But But otherwise, I have a lot to see. Again, not much. By the time we're 13 hours into the day, the baby goes down. We're lucky to make it through a TV show or a dinner before sleeping. So not a lot of movies, sadly, but I have a lot to catch up on.
Well, I guess the bright side is that they're all available either on Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, or iTunes, so you can at least find them.
We also watched. We're excited about was The Little Things. It was like Denzel, Jared Leto, and Rami Malek, and my wife had gone to high school with Rami. Did plays with him. Also wanted to love it and didn't love it. So I don't know. There's a lot out there, but I was like, and that's what's so interesting about when I do all the investments and I'm talking to investors about, you know, the movies, you just think, you're like, come on, it's like, it's Denzel, it's Jared Leto, it's Rami, like Academy, like this thing's going to be huge. But then you're like, well, it kind of like hit HBO Max and like no one saw it. And like people that did see it, like didn't love it. So it's like, nothing is guaranteed, you know, it really is like a shifting market. And that's why you kind of understand where you're like, of course it's Chicago 7, you know, but people are like, well, it's not Avengers, you know, it's not a WandaVision show or Mandalorian. And you're like, okay, and you're starting to see that now where it's like, you don't know what's going to make its money back or not, you know, whereas before you thought like, oh, you have this one star, you're gonna sail through the profits, and now it doesn't mean anything, you know.
Although I stand by that, I knew Trial of Chicago 7 was going to be an Oscar movie,
and you should stand by it because it is.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a safe bet.
Yeah. And so then next category, Best Director. Somehow Aaron Sorkin was not nominated in this category. I thought he was a shoo-in. The nominees are Lee Isaac Chung for Minari, Emerald Fennell for Promising Young Woman, David Fincher for Mank, Thomas Vinterberg for Another Round, and Chloe Zhao for Nomadland. So Chloe Zhao's won everything. You know, she won the DGA, the BAFTA, the Golden Globe, the Critics' Choice. And I think what it is with Nomadland, why people are responding to it, is because Frances McDormand and David Strathairn are really the only actors in it, and the rest was kind of the real world. So I think it's sort of a blend of documentary and scripted that people are responding.
I agree with that, and I also think that it was hard. You know, it's hard to shoot inside those trailers. It's hard. You know, the sound was amazing. Visually, it looked. You know, it's places and people that we've never seen. Even you know, the Amazon warehouse. You know, you don't really get a glimpse at that. You know, and you definitely felt. You know, it was very moody. Like you know, you felt it all. So for sure, amazing directing. I'm just saying, you know, as the story didn't hit me like I wanted to. But you know, just a different place in my life than you know, I think you know the targeted audience maybe. But Chloe was phenomenal, obviously, and the fact that she pulled that off was amazing. So
what's cool is that it's based on a nonfiction book actually that Frances McDormand found, and then she picked Chloe Zhao to adapt it and direct it, which is pretty awesome.
No, that's very cool.
So it's like the characters.
I heard great things about the Promising Young Woman director, right? Because like he like went with like all these comedians for.
Well, it's a woman. She was an actress, and she's been in a bunch of movies, and now she wrote and directed her first thing for Promising
Young Woman.
Yeah, Emerald Fennell. Yeah.
Oh wow! All right, this is her first directorial debut.
Yeah. And she's an actress. Yeah, it's incredible.
Wow, that's amazing.
These stories you just never know. You could either be a veteran.
I really want to see. Have you seen it?
Yeah, it's good. It's got some twists and turns. And Carey Mulligan's amazing, which actually brings us to the acting category. So last year, the same 4 actors won every single award leading up to the Oscars. It was Joaquin Phoenix for Best Actor, Renee Zellweger for Best Actress, Brad Pitt Best Supporting Actor, Laura Dern Best Supporting Actress. So they won everything. So it was like by the time the Oscars came, we knew who was going to win. But this year, the categories have been all over the place. So Best Actress nominees: Viola Davis, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Andra Day, The United States vs. Billie Holiday, Vanessa Kirby, Pieces of a Woman, Frances McDormand, Nomadland, Carey Mulligan, Promising Young Woman. Golden Globe went to Andra Day, Critics' Choice went to Carey Mulligan, SAG went to Viola Davis, BAFTA went to Frances McDormand. So it's anybody's game. Yeah, I have no idea who's going to win. I mean, I feel like it's going to be Carey Mulligan because she's never won before. Viola and Frances have won before. I think Carey Mulligan, if you see Promising Young Woman, you'll be like, wow,
I gotta see it.
Owned it. But they're all incredible this year.
They're all good, and they're always solid no matter what I mean, Viola Davis just like stops your heart whenever she comes on the screen. Frances McDormand, it's like I'll watch anything she's in. So, you know, it's that's a tough category for sure. Yeah,
so we'll see what happens there. Actor in a leading role: Riz Ahmed, Sound of Metal; Chadwick Boseman, Ma Rainey; Anthony Hopkins, The Father; Gary Oldman, Mank; Stephen Yeun, Minari. So Chadwick's won almost every award. He obviously passed away, so this is almost like a culmination of his whole career. I think Chadwick Boseman is a lock for that, but Anthony Hopkins, who's incredible in The Father, he won a BAFTA award. So we'll see.
Did you see Minari?
Yeah, I really liked it.
I really want to see that. That's what I haven't seen. I want to see that. I haven't seen Ma Rainey's. I have so much watching to do, but I'm dying to see those. Yeah,
you have a lot of. Well, the bright side is you have a lot of good movies waiting for you,
and a couple weeks to go. So hopefully I'll squeeze it in before that. Yeah,
exactly.
Maybe we'll just lay in the hotel and just watch movies. That sounds delightful.
Yeah, exactly. Uninterrupted. And then Best Supporting Actress: Maria Bakalova, Borat; 2.
Oh yeah.
Glenn Close, Hillbilly Elegy. Olivia Colman, The Father. Amanda Seyfried, Mank. And Ya Jung Yoon for Minari. They're all great. They're all deserving. Golden Globe went to Jodie Foster, who's not even nominated.
What? What?
Yeah,
What? What happened?
she was nominated for a Golden Globe. She won, and then she didn't win. She didn't get nominated for an Oscar. So Jodie Foster's out.
Oh,
Critics' Choice, Maria Bakalova, Borat, and then SAG and BAFTA went to Yoo Jung Yoon for Minari. She's the grandmother in that. She steals the movie. She steals your heart. She steals all her scenes. You're gonna love her. And she's
how was Mank? I really want to watch Mank too.
Mank's super cool. Like you'll appreciate it because it's the making of Citizen Kane. So it's the making of a movie, and same thing.
Yeah.
David Fincher, attention to detail, shot it in black and white. Used the locations that it really happened, those kind of things. But it's nominated for the most awards, 10, but it doesn't really have the momentum in any category for some reason. I don't know. There's just other things. You just never know what.
If I'd ask you your favorite movie, not award winning, not critic, just like the one that you like, just made you the happiest, like the biggest escape, the one you tell me to watch, like watch this one. If I have time to watch one movie, what is that one movie
from the Best Picture nominees?
Yeah.
That you haven't seen? I think you'll really like Minari. I think you will.
Okay, I think so too.
I think it's just like a family slice of life story based on the writer director's family history. It's just a nice story. But I liked them all. Honestly, there's not. I liked every movie that's nominated for Best Picture. Truly,
The Father, good, not slow.
The Father is. I know you think it's going to be this slow drama.
Yeah,
it's almost it almost feels like a thriller. Because Anthony Hopkins, Anthony Hopkins' character has Alzheimer's, and the movie is his point of view. So everything is very confusing, and you're not
like
sure.
Memento,
right? So it's like we're not sure who's who. It's his dementia. Yeah. So I actually thought this is just going to be. I thought this is going to be a straightforward British drama, and it's not. It's very again tense. Who's who? Is that really who they say they are? Is he confused or are we confused?
Cool.
Yeah.
I like that. Okay.
There's a lot more to that. Yeah, I was really surprised by that. Actor in a supporting role. Here we go. Trial of Chicago 7. Sacha Baron Cohen is in that category. Daniel Kaluuya, Judas and the Black Messiah, also a great movie. Another true story that I didn't know. Leslie Odom Jr., One Night in Miami. Paul Raci, Sound of Metal, and Lakeith Stanfield, also Judas and the Black Messiah. They're all so good. This is the only category where every award's been going to the same person. Daniel Kaluuya got the Golden Globe, the Critics' Choice, the SAG, and the BAFTA. So he looks like a lock. But it would be nice for you guys if Sasha.
Oh, it'd be cool. I mean, Sasha was great, but I haven't seen Judas and the Black Messiah. I really want to, but I know Daniel is amazing in everything he does. Anyway, so
Daniel's almost the lead. So it's interesting that he's in the supporting category. He and
probably
Lakeith,
strategic.
He and Lakeith are kind of co-lead, so I think they put them both in supporting.
Yeah, and then they both got nominated though.
Yeah, but it's similar to your movie in that it's protests and Black Panthers, and there's a character.
Both have to do with Bobby Seale. Yeah,
and Lakeith's character is an FBI. The FBI pays him to infiltrate and give them tips and what's going on in there. Like he's undercover also. So there's a lot of stories about these people going undercover at historical events to kind of tip off the police. Yeah, you'll like that. And then Best Original Screenplay: Judas and the Black Messiah, Minari, Promising Young Woman, Sound of Metal, and The Trial of the Chicago 7. Aaron Sorkin. This is between Aaron Sorkin and Emerald Fennell for Promising Young Woman. He won the Golden Globe. She got the WGA and Critics' Choice and BAFTA. It's between those two. Adapted screenplay: Borat, The Father, Nomadland, One Night in Miami.
Wait, is this her first script that she wrote?
I think so. Yeah, I think it is.
Wouldn't that be amazing to beat? Not Sorkin's my guy now, but it's like, wouldn't that be crazy? It's like to beat Aaron Sorkin at the Oscars, and it's like your first script. Like, I mean, good for her. That's incredible. But but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, Aaron won. He won for Social Network, right? He's got an Oscar.
I'm sure he does, or A Few Good Men, or something. I don't know. He must have won something.
Yeah, he's got an Oscar.
You know better than I did. Yeah.
Yeah. And so adapted. Yeah. So the WGA went with Borat for adapted screenplay. Critics' Choice went with Nomadland. BAFTA went with The Father. Could be any of the three. I think it might be Nomadland because, like I said, it was a nonfiction book that they turned into a screenplay with characters added. So who knows? But adapted screenplay. But how cool if Sacha Baron Cohen wins for Borat? Very
To
possible.
win an Oscar for Borat would be
Yeah.
awesome. You know, he obviously takes it seriously, and he was saying something with it, so it would be great. But who
That's the
knows?
thing. There is a
Yeah.
message in the new Borat that's very
And
powerful.
that was like the right time to release it. You know,
Yeah,
it's
I
like we
actually
need to
thought
release that.
the scene. I should have mentioned this when you were saying what to watch. The scene in Borat. Did you see it with the Holocaust
Yeah,
survivor? That's like the most moving scene I've seen all year. When the Holocaust survivor like gives him a hug. I thought that was
because it's real, and it's like you
real.
need. Yeah, I
I
know.
really like that. So yeah, I mean, listen, the WGA is a major predictor, and he won that, so it
We'll
could
see.
happen.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, and I want to just mention,
That'd be amazing to be like nominated for Chicago 7, but win for Borat.
but the
That's
fact that
great.
the
Either
fact
way,
he's nominated for both, yeah, that's pretty
I know.
cool.
I know.
He,
Yeah,
he can pretty much do it all.
yeah,
Um,
you can.
so your movie's also nominated for cinematography, with Judas and the
Yeah,
Black Messiah, Mank, News of the World, Nomadland, and Trial of Chicago 7. So that looks like
News
a
of the World. You
three-way
see News of
race.
the World?
I
Tom
did see
Hanks.
that. Yeah, I saw
Good.
that. It's like a Western. Those aren't really my thing,
Cup of
but
tea. Okay.
it's well done.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I think this category is between Nomadland, which is that
Yeah,
expansive
yeah,
landscape, Mank, which is black and white, and then Trial of
yeah.
Chicago 7, which is. But I think there's a very strong case for cinematography for your movie, and same with
Well, yeah, those riot scenes were pretty crazy to shit, but that's I think the editing that the editor might win. The editing
that's
was
the next
key, and I
category.
think
Yeah,
that should be Chicago 7 because he did a great job.
yeah, going back and
Nomadland was
forth.
pretty good cinematography, but we'll see.
Yeah, and then editing is The Father, Nomadland, Promising Young Woman, Sound of Metal, Trial of Chicago 7. And that one, it's been coming down to Sound of Metal and Trial of Chicago 7. So yeah, those are all the categories that your movie's nominated in, which is pretty amazing. There's also, I mean, documentary feature. I don't know if you saw those. My Octopus Teacher, Time, Crip Camp Collective, and Mole Agent. They're all
Nope.
good. I think
Awesome.
if you're doing a pool, it's My Octopus Teacher which is Netflix, has a little bit of an edge, but also Time is really popular. Crip Camp is the Barack and Michelle Obama produced that, and animated feature film. I think Soul. I think was my favorite. I didn't mention original song is the other
Oh yeah,
category.
Celeste and Daniel Pemberton. Yep, yep.
Yeah, that's right. There is one more with Trial of Chicago 7. Celeste song,
There you
Hear
go.
My Voice.
I feel it will come away with an Oscar.
It's definitely
Whether
winning an Oscar.
1, 2, 3, I don't know, but I'd say a safe bet of about 1 or 2 for sure.
Yeah.
I'm hoping Best Picture.
That'd be
But we'll
amazing.
see.
There's a
We'll see.
chance.
It'd be really cool.
There's definitely a chance, yeah. And original
There's a chance.
song, by the way, is free for all because Critics' Choice went to Leslie Odom Jr. for Speak Now from One Night in Miami. Diane Warren won for Scene from The Life Ahead. She's been nominated 12 times and hasn't won. Yeah, I'm gonna have her on the
All
podcast.
right. Well, there you go.
So we'll
Yeah.
see. But I'm looking forward to the Oscars. I appreciate you going through those nominations with me.
I'm so sorry.
But-
I'm usually the guy that's like watched every one of them and I know everything. And babies, man, this year
But also-
I don't have time.
But you also have a horse in the race, so it's more important to talk to you about your experience.
The one I'm in, yeah.
On the
Like,
movie.
Win, great. If not, I'll watch that one too.
Yeah,
But
we'll go on record and say Trial of Chicago 7 will not leave the Oscars empty-handed. It's going to win something. We'll see. What
I
it is.
would say that's a safe bet. Anything can happen, but I think it'll walk away with at least one.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what it is.
And I will say that the editor, which is like not a very sexy category, it is amazing because if you read that script, I think it was like 168 pages or something. It was, it's up there because usually scripts for people that don't know, or maybe like 90 to like 110, 120. Like if I get a script for like 120 pages, I'm like, oh god, this is gonna take forever.
Yeah,
And
well,
then
the
Sorkin's
whole
like 170, but you're also like, but like I also finished that faster than most other scripts because like it just moves and you can't put it down. But the editor had quite a challenge because the script does, hop around. It was like courtroom to riot to courtroom to park to, and you're like, wow, this is going to be crazy to have it all seamlessly intercut. And he did. And so that, to me, that really was quite a feat after seeing it on paper to then seeing how it translated. And it's like the pacing matched identically to how I kind of envisioned it, in my head when reading it. So I hope Alan wins for that, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, there's a very good
And
chance.
he left me in the movie, so big
Exactly.
props to him. I wasn't cut out.
He didn't edit you out, so he deserves an Oscar. But that must be so cool getting an Aaron Sorkin script and just reading through it. Just like it's almost like music the way he writes. Like it's just
You're right.
The words he uses are like perfect. I can imagine you just breezed through
Oh
that.
yeah, and you kind of feel like lucky to have. You're like, whoa, like yeah, it's like this coveted. It's like the Crystal Skull or something. It's like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, like I'm reading like Sorkin's words before like so many people like know what's about to happen.
Oh yeah.
And I
He's
kind of feel,
someone
it's like getting the key to like something big. It's really cool.
he's someone I've idolized forever. Like I said, he went to Syracuse where I went, so he's like when you go to school there, he's like the legend, that went there too.
Yeah, yeah,
I haven't officially met him. I've seen him at Soho House. I should have gone over to say something, but one
yeah.
day I would love
Well,
to meet
maybe
him.
you could drop my name, and hopefully he remembers who I am,
I
and you can
absolutely
use
will.
that. Yeah.
Hopefully he sees this. But
Hopefully you and I go to Soho House together, and we see him there, and then
yeah.
we'll just hang out and sit with him at the table, and it'll be another story for the next podcast.
Or the next time you send me an Aaron Sorkin project that needs financing, the
You
people
got
I
it.
give it to pull it
We're
off.
going back. Yeah,
And
we're
I
gonna go in person, knocking on
get
some
that
doors.
producer credit. Exactly. Okay, so here's where it becomes like Inside the Actor Studio, Max Adler edition. Tell everybody where you were born. Take us back.
New York, Queens, New York.
Right. Yeah, and your parents were born there too? Or are they from New York?
My parents were born in New York. Yes, my dad and mom were from New York, born there, and met at a camp in their youth, and kind of hit it off there. And then they lost touch for like a decade.
Oh wow.
And then it was like my dad's brother saw her like at a gas station or something, and was like, my brother liked you, and if you're still single, he's still single, and they kind of reconnected.
Wow.
And so that's how that happened. And then they had me in '86, and there was like a third floor walk up, 1-bedroom apartment, and just like me and Jen with our townhouse, we're like, we got to go find greener pastures with the baby. They came out to Arizona. They were done with New York, just too cold, too small, too crowded, too stinky for them. And although I'm like, man, every time I go back, I just like, it feels awesome. I love New York.
Well, you know
I
what?
love Arizona too, but New York's awesome. Like, man, it would have been cool to grow up there.
You're a New Yorker at heart because you spent a little time there. You were born there. My parents were both born and raised in Brooklyn. My sister was born there, but same thing. When my sister was 6 weeks old, they moved to the suburbs of New Jersey. So I've never lived in New York.
Yeah,
but
I
we've got
feel it because your parents, like, you grow up with that, the culture, the talking with your hands,
totally,
that's very New York Italian. So like, it's really cool because I kind of have that in me just from like my house that I grew up in.
Yeah.
Mixed with like the Arizona culture, and so there's like, it's kind of a very well-rounded upbringing from many different, you see a lot of different points of view. But yeah, so New York, and then at 6 months they moved me to Arizona.
Okay.
And so yeah, grew up in Arizona, in Scottsdale.
Oh, Scottsdale. So what's your earliest memory growing up in Arizona of wanting to be an actor when you grew up? Do you remember?
Yeah, we were in a little city called Fountain Hills before we had moved to Scottsdale, and there was a community theater, community center doing like Jesus Christ Superstar, and I remember wanting to like badly audition for that at like 10.
Yeah.
And then I got a part. I think I was like in the ensemble, and then I was kind of hooked, and then I got duped by John Robert Powers because I think I heard one of those ads on like the radio, they're like, do you want to be a star? And, it's one of those things. And they make the parents come, and then like, there's like, it's a cattle call of 500 people with like a number on your chest. You do a monologue, and then like you're chosen, and then you get the opportunity to give them like $2,000 for like 5 classes. And, you're begging your parents, and they did, and they paid. And then we kind of realized like, it was a little bit of a scam, but I was doing acting classes and all that in Arizona, and then just doing theater in like summer camps and high school and middle school, and just kind of knew I wanted to do that forever. And like the feeling was just like too damn good, like those curtain calls, with like on the stage, and I'm just like, I do not want to go back to real life. Like, I just don't want to do anything like normally. Like, this is the deal. This is what I want to do. Like, I love it. I love everything about it, the storytelling, the camaraderie, the magic of it. And so then I just moved out to LA right after high school to keep doing it.
Incredible. So obviously your parents were supportive of that. I think most of it is that we need supportive parents. Otherwise we wouldn't be able to do what we do.
Yeah, it was very rare actually. So it was really, really weird because my mom had been a dancer growing up, but then got a lot of shit. She had like Hodgkin's lymphoma. She got Lyme disease. She had muscular dystrophy. And so she kind of knew she was like an artist at heart, really like took me to see Les Mis, like, like concerts. Like she was very, very like important and kind of a defining figure in my life for introducing me to arts and culture.
Yeah.
And I remember like in high school, I didn't think a career in acting was real. And I was just like, well, I'll be a news anchor. And I was in, ASU in Arizona. They have the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism, which is great. And I was like, I'll just go in-state tuition. I'll do some, I'll read lines on TV, and I'll have a wardrobe and hair, and I'll still be on television. It's a close, second best.
Yeah.
And I was all set to do that. And she was the one that was just like, if you want to be an actor, like, why don't you, like, you don't need a degree, like, just go out and like try to do it. And I was like, you're insane. Like, why everyone's going to laugh at me? Like, that doesn't happen,
Yeah.
But that was like my junior year when I was applying to colleges. And then she passed away my senior year unexpectedly because of everything. Yeah. When I was 17, like just out of the blue, middle of the night, everything was fine. And then it wasn't. And then she passed.
Wow.
So because of that, I was just like, okay, mom, like, fuck plan B. Like, there is no tomorrow now. Like, I understand, like, completely, like, one day you're here, one day you're not, like, bye-bye, like, safety net. Like, I'm going out there then, like, for you. And it was like every, like, even to this day, like when I'm on set or like a big audition or something, I'm just like it's kind of like, like the mantra, is just kind of like, all right, mom, like, for you. And it's just kind of like, no regrets, like, leave it all here, because like, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And it's just like doing it like for her, like continue that dream.
Wow.
And I remember like, that was like a very big thing, like at the GLEE audition, because it was like, I'd done show choir, and she loved like coming to see me in show choir, and Ryan Murphy did it, and she knew I was a big fan of Nip Tuck. And so like that audition was really like very important to me for all the reasons on so many levels. And I just kind of went in that room. I was like, I'm going to fucking like blow this door down, because like I'm supposed to be here. And that was really the only audition ever to this day where the casting director, Robert Ulrich, and Alex Newman, who was his assistant at the time, in the room when I was done, were like, you're the guy. Like, oh my God, like you're going to get this part. And I was like, there's like 30 other guys out there, like, really, like, are you sure? Because this is going to make my day. And it was, I don't know, just something, right place, right time, right look, whatever, something kind of connected in the right storm of the universe. And then, I got that part, which was only one day at the time. It was 2 lines, it was like a co-star. And I was just like pumped just to be on that set and like throw a slushie and say some words and like, bye. But then that obviously turned into like the biggest, game-changing role of my life. So
did they know about your choir? Did they know about the choir background? Did it matter if you could sing for that role?
Didn't matter. No. Wow. It was like singing was a plus, they said, and I did tell them about it. I didn't have to sing for the audition. I told the producers and writers and everything when I was on a set that I think me and Jenna Ushkowitz were like the only 2 to actually do show choir. I mean, obviously Leah was like on Broadway and stuff, but as far as like show choir in school, I think it was like very rare that people were from the cast were doing it. And I was like, oh, I'm for sure gonna like sing and dance. Like I was like, I'm like pretty good. And they did have me dance, but I never got to sing on the show. So that's very sad. But never happened. But they gave me a hell of a role to play. So that is not very sad. But
but take me through. So you moved to LA in 2004, you got GLEE 2009. What were those 5 years like before GLEE changed your life?
Yeah, crazy ups and downs. I was working at the Marriott in Arizona valeting. So they transferred me out here to a Marriott in Woodland Hill. It was basically like looking at a map. I'm like in Scottsdale. I'm like, I'm going to LA and I'm going to be an actor. Like, do you have any Marriotts? And they're like, oh yeah, we got one like in Woodland Hills and like one by LAX. And I was like, I think like Woodland Hills looks closer. Like, and then I was like, oh my God, like that's a far. So I moved to Sunset in Fairfax, like at the center of everything. And a friend of mine, Katrina, who I did show choir with in high school in Arizona, was a year older than me, and she was at the Fashion Institute, FITM out here. And so I was like, can I just like come crash with you while I figure out what's going to happen? And she had an extra room and gave me a very, very, nice steal of a deal. So I was living there. So I was 18, kind of caravanned out here with my dad and my brother. Like I had my car full of stuff. My dad was behind me and my brother with his car full of stuff. And basically, like, we hear, oh, Sunset Boulevard, like it's going to be, just like, Ferraris and Corvettes and stars. And we'll probably see Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie. And it was not that. It was just like, what is this that I'm living in? Like, it was a little grimy, a little dirty, like a little like, you know, a traffic heavy, nowhere to park. I was like, what am I doing? Like, I remember like crying the first night. It was just like, you know, I was 18 and it's like, you know, I just graduated high school and I'm like, what am I doing in this big scary city with like, you know, people screaming outside, horns honking. Like, I don't even know how to like where to go to mail a letter. Like, what are these 6 street signs that I'm supposed to like follow? Like, how do I even parallel park? Because Arizona, you just like park up like on a curb for like 5 days and no one says anything.
Well, you wanted it bad enough that you were willing to make this move, you know?
Exactly. It was that. That was every day. It was just like, all right, like, what can I do today to like bring myself closer to the goal of acting? Because like I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I can't do this. Like, I gotta like figure it out. So it was just like a, you know, fire under my butt to really get it going.
And by the way, if you were at Sunset in Fairfax in 2004, I moved to LA 2002, 2003. My first place was Sierra Bonita and Fountain, like 2003. Yeah. So I was pretty close.
We were probably shopping at the same Ralph's over there on the Poinsettia Ralph's or something.
Right.
That's nuts. Yeah, exactly. And the griddle, which I don't even know if I realized the griddle was there until years later. But the Grove was like my spot. Like, I just felt like safe. The Grove was like so cool just to walk around and like see the tourists and like the dreamers. And I was like, yeah, like I'm here. Like, I live right up the street and like I did it. Like, felt like an accomplishment just to be here, you know, especially because what we were saying earlier was many of my friends, I think, you know, I did act with and I did choir with, and a lot of them were like, man, like, that sounds awesome. Like, I wish I could just come out there too and like skip the college debt and tuitions and like classes and like do what I want to do. Mm-hmm. But I wasn't even sure at the time either, because I was like, I don't know, guys, like, I may fail and like you guys might have figured it out, because like you're gonna have a degree and I'm gonna be like the old man in the university like trying to figure it out. Right. But that's what was crazy, because I was basically starting GLEE right when everyone was graduating college.
Oh yeah.
So it was a very surreal thing. And then people that started to come out here after college felt behind, because then I was already like, I had done the whole like SAG, you know, agent, like audition thing. So it did, thank God, work out. But anyway, it was hard. It was a thing where I just moved out here very naive, thinking you just kind of like line up at an open call for any project. And I did not know that you needed like an agent, a certain kind of agent at a certain kind of agency who had the right relationship to get you the opportunity just to compete with 100 guys for that one role that you may or may not be right for. Mm-hmm. And it was really challenging. And I like submitted my headshot to like 80 agents, you know, there's Sam French, which was the big bookstore then, now, rest in peace. Yeah. Had like a magazine kind of a thing of like all the agents in town and like what they were looking for and if they accept submissions. And I remember like spending a shit ton on headshots, printing them out at like, you know, ISGO and Argenta, like those photo labs, and mailing 80. I remember I bought like 80, you know, envelopes, and I like filled all of them up, sent them out. And I was like, well, for sure I'll hear back from like 5 or 10 of them. Zero. Just not, you know, I didn't have any credits. I was not union. There was nothing really to offer. So I was taking a bunch of classes. I was working as a valet. At this point, my buddy Danny, who we were like super, super close, like in middle school, high school, he was one of the groomsmen at my wedding. He left U of A to join me out here. And then we moved together to an apartment in the Valley where we could, you know, afford it. And that felt far, but it was just more chill, more like our Arizona speed than like West Hollywood. Yep. And I've been a Valley guy ever since. I know it gets a bad rap, but I will say it's really nice. And it's very, it's just a lot more chill, a lot more bang for your buck, you know, a little less hip, but it's starting to kind of get very cool. And anyway, I'm a family man now and we live in Woodland Hills. And
I did I did the Robertson Boulevard move where you get closer to like Robertson, Burton Way, you know.
Oh yeah. That's very fancy. Very fancy. I know. But
that area too, yeah.
It's a great area. I know. We met there for sushi. I think. Where do we go?
Oh yeah,
Katsuya. Remember we met over there on 3rd.
Yeah. Izakaya. That's right.
Izakaya. Oh man, right. I miss that. So that was really good.
The Demi Moore night. Remember?
That was the which?
Wasn't Demi Moore there?
Oh yeah. Yes.
That's
yes.
Right.
Yes, because we had just talked about going to see Rumor Willis at Sayers or something like that.
Yeah, and we both know Rumor, and so I thought it would be nice to send over sake to Laura and her friend, and she said, thank you, but I'm sober. And so they
I know. We just sat there like, oh Christ. Nice. What a Hollywood story.
Totally. I had forgotten
But that was awesome. So anyway, so I was living with Danny, and he was working at a restaurant. I was working as a valet and taking classes basically every night, just like different classes, just soaking it all in, coming home, reading the books, watching a classic movie, watching like YouTube, like monologues, whatever, working, just kind of absorbing it all.
That was your college.
Huh?
That was your college.
That was exactly right. The School of Hard Knocks, just like taking every different class, learning about Meisner, learning about Stanislavski, reading. It was just like fascinating, just taking it all in, being around other actors, watching what they do right, watching what they do wrong. So one of the actors in one of these classes said to me, like, what you should do is intern at an agency, because then you can learn about the business from that side, and maybe you kind of like finagle your way in the back door, and maybe they can rep you. So then I wrote to all those agents that I sent a headshot to, and I was like, you need an intern. 2 of them replied. I met with those 2 and got, non-paying, but basically an intern who was just there to file the headshots away, help with the submissions, go through the mail. But after being there for 6 months, so basically I'd go work for them, from 9 to 2 or 9 to 3, and then go from there to valet at night, from 4 till 11 or till midnight. It was just like a crazy life. But I was doing what I wanted to do. And I was like, what else am I doing? So after 6 months, there was Jeff Greenberg was casting a show called The Four Kings that Seth Green was doing. And it was 4 guys in New York in their 20s. So I kind of printed out the sides on the DL and prepared them. And when I came in to intern, I was like, I prepared these sides. I think I'm right for this role. I know I'm not represented. I know I don't have anything, but can I just read for you when you have 5 minutes? And if you think I'm any good, maybe you could pitch me as your client and get me in there. And she seemed impressed and was like, yeah, let's do it. And so I did. And she thought I was really good. And she pitched me, and I did not get in. They were like, who's that? No way. But that's how I got my first agent. So she signed me, Mimi Mayer at Angel City Talent.
Great story.
Got me then I got a commercial, which was a Montana meth PSA. It was a PSA against meth, but Tony Kaye from American History X was directing it. And so it was super cool to work with him. And that's what got me my SAG card. They Taft Hartley, they basically paid for me to be in the union because they wanted me for that commercial or that PSA. So that's how I got union. And then I booked a couple little jobs like Ghost Whisperer, What About Brian? Also crazy because I had loved watching Seventh Heaven as a kid. It was our family show. And then Barry Watson, I thought was the coolest dude ever. And was I saw behind the scenes interviews with him about being an actor. And I was like, whoa, he's not really Matt Camden. He's this guy, Barry Watson. I want to do that. That's amazing. So to work with him, and then it's Jennifer Love Hewitt, who everyone loved, and I was just oh my gosh, I'm working with you. Yeah. So that was cool. And then from there, I called the other agency who was a little bit higher up the totem pole and was like, hey, now I'm SAG. Now I have some credits. What's up? And then they took me. And then just from then, it kind of just, I got a couple credits with them, and then, went to another agency and just kind of bounced around and climbed up the ladder. And then I was at an agency now. So this is now, 4 years later after moving here. And then the GLEE audition happened, which I knew about GLEE just because it was in the zeitgeist that had aired after American Idol. Right. It was Show Choir. It was Ryan Murphy. It was all everyone was talking about Don't Stop Believing. And I was like, I did that shit for 4 years. I won awards in Arizona,
aligned,
It was amazing. So when I got the audition, it was for the bully. I was like, whatever, It was actually for 2 roles. It was playing, it was 2 jocks, Karofsky and Azemio, who my buddy James Earl played. And it was the 2 of us were the bullies. But you had basically had to audition for 2 roles. Kellen and Makad Brooks. I don't know if you know him. Great actor. I met him on Ghost Whisperer, and he was a big deal because he had just come from Desperate Housewives, which was the biggest show at the time. Now he's got Mortal Kombat coming out. But we became friends. So I'd asked him, I'd asked Kellen right before GLEE, when it was kind of a rough, it was I told myself 2 years I'd give myself to get a career going. And if I don't have anything going in 2 years, I'm going to go back to college. Then I realized it's going to take a lot longer than that. But about 3.5 years, it was really slow. And I had done those couple roles. And now I was just restaurant working and nothing was clicking. And I was like, man, this is going to be really bad. So I'd asked Kellen, I'd asked Makad, point me in the right direction. What do I do? I don't look like you guys, but what can I do? And weirdly enough, both of them had worked with the same private coach, this guy, Jeff Preiser, who's amazing, sent me to him. And I worked with him, and I worked with him for many years and still do on like big auditions. I worked with him for the Sorkin movie. Awesome. He's just a game changer. But I had come to him for GLEE was like 2 lines. But I was like, I want your time for like 2 hours because I need to book this role so bad. Like I love Ryan Murphy. I love Chokewire. So we worked for like 2 hours on this, like, you know, half a page of dialogue. But was like, you know, who is this guy? Like, why is he doing everything he's doing? And so I came into that audition, you know, fully prepped. And so I booked that. I found out about that while I was doing a play with Jen. I was like rehearsing, and then the call came in. I was like, sorry guys, like it's my agent. I think this is good news because the casting director told me like they wanted me for the role. So I booked it. You know, I found out I was going to be shooting. So that was great, you know, and then I got to go to Paramount, which was the epic, the studio of all studios, like so much history.
Yeah.
Drive through the big arches, like, you know, they had my name at the gate, like, oh, I'm shooting. Like, you know, Corey Monteith greeted me, super, super sweet, like nicest guy. His mom was visiting from Canada. He introduced me to her. Like, it felt like back in high school, you know, it was like, we were kind of behind the scenes, like, of the set. You know, you walk on, oh, it looks like a school in Ohio. Like, nope, it's just Paramount. Yeah. You know, and I'm hanging out with, you know, the cast and like their parents. Or it was like a very, very chill atmosphere because it hadn't really blown up yet. It was just kind of like, I hope this thing like lasts, you know.
Because you joined season 1, episode 8, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And you had to throw the slushie in Corey Monteith's face, right? That's how you get introduced. So, and he was the star, and it was still so new, and ever, you know, what was that like?
Yeah, it was like him and Diana. It was, you know, it was like the jock and the cheerleader, and you know, at this point, we all kind of knew them from Don't Stop Believe, because what they did was like they aired the pilot after I think the finale of American Idol, which at that time, you know, was a huge ratings thing. So it was like everyone got hooked. Like, what's this GLEE show? And it was like, stay tuned. Like the rest of the season's coming in like 5 months. Yeah. So I knew going on it that like, oh, this is going to be something. And so cool. Like I'm back in high school, and all my high school buddies are going to like, you know, see me. And it was like a very, very cool like thing. Cause I was like, for once, like I'm on a show that like, I think people are going to watch, and like, you know, it'll be talked about. Little did we know it was going to be like as big as it got.
Yeah.
But yeah, I shot that, which was also a lot of pressure because that was a whole conversation too of like, what consistency should the slushy be? Should it really be cold? Should it really be hot? If it's rubber, like these rubber dyed pieces, it'll bounce off him. It won't play. You know, if it's cold, will it sting his face? If I miss, will it get all over the clothes? Then we have to reset and waste time. So yeah. I literally remember showing up like a half hour before my call time because they had like one of those Tybo like dummies that they would like adjust to the height of Corey and like put like an X like on the spot. But they wanted me. There's like and there was like the prop master. His name's Paul Bruninger. Rest in peace now, Paul. Paul, he passed away, but he's a great guy. And he was so passionate about this, where he's like, if you aim for like the tip of the nose, it'll hit and it'll be that splat. It'll explode all over the face. It'll be great for camera. You know, so we had like practice like, oh, but if I throw it, you know, this way, it falls out. If I turn it, you know, so it was like, it's like bowling. It was like, you know, like a tutorial about slushy throwing. And I was like, I'm an actor. I don't know how to throw slushies, but it was part of it. And it worked out and everything went really well. Yeah. And then, yeah, then all of a sudden, I don't know, a few weeks later, I got a call that like they wanted to bring me back for like another scene. And I was like, whoa, like that's huge. And it was kind of like that way for 6 years. It was never, ever a contract. It was never a guarantee. It was never like, hey, we're going to write you this big storyline. It was kind of just like every episode just kind of showed up and I got a call and I never knew if that was my last one or what was happening. Wow. You know, the only hint I ever got was at the season 2 premiere, which I was still just doing like the one-off, one-line kind of slushy stuff. And I remember Ryan came out, I was with Jen, and Ryan Murphy came up and he was just like, hey. And I was like, hey. And he's like, we just wrote you something really special. And I was like, all right, cool. Like, but I was like what? Like, do I have 6 lines now? Like 2 slushies? You know, like what could I possibly do? Like, I'm just the guy that says like some bullshit about like supercuts and like throws a slushie. But then it was that script where you know you find out that I'm gay and I have to like you know do so there's the kiss scene in the locker room. And it was like American Beauty vibes. Like it was like the, you know, the Chris Cooper, Kevin Spacey scene. And I was just like, whoa, like this is special. This is huge. Like at this time in the world on this show when everyone's talking about, cyberbullying and like suicides because of bullying, because of being gay. And it's like, I'm the bully that is gay. And I'm like, whoa, like, I don't even have to audition for this. Like I get to play this. So I took it very, very seriously and, coached and knew what I was representing and who I was representing. And then, that kind of changed, the whole world for me as far as people in town that knew who I was now, opportunities, traveling, speaking at events and conventions and fans and autographs and everything kind of like opened up because of that scene, and it was just nuts to be there.
That's why I described the role as groundbreaking, because he started out as just the typical jock bully, and he bullied Chris Colfer's character Kurt, but then there was the big twist that maybe it was because he was homophobic, because it was like his own feeling about himself, and then there was the big twist where you kiss Chris Colfer's character, and no one saw that coming, especially at that time. We weren't seeing that on TV where the bully would have that kind of twist. And
no, I mean, really, at that time, there wasn't. I mean, that's the thing. It was like gay characters really weren't, you forget like how quickly the world changed and like every, political correctness and Me Too and I mean everything. But like at that time when it started, I remember like one of my first interviews, I was already on the show. Someone asked me like what my handle was, and I was like, my handle on what? And it was Twitter. And like I didn't even like Twitter was like so new, it was like there was no Instagram, so it's like that's how long ago we are. Where like the point is there wasn't the representation on camera, like diversity, sexuality. It was near, I think Glee and Modern Family were like the big groundbreaking things to just have gay characters and show them the way that represent them the way that they are, and not kind of make fun of them or make like a mockery of a gay character or a stereotype. And so anyway, to be on that show at that time was just nuts. Yeah. And to play that role was crazy.
Your slushie that you started became almost like the campaign for the whole show. They would show every character, for the Fox promos throwing slushies. And
I would just walk around. I'd be at a restaurant outside or walk around and people would just drive by and like, like Glee. It was like the L thing. It was like, it was very, very cool. Yeah.
Noticed that you were getting recognized, like after your first episode aired. Did you start to notice that you were getting known for the show?
It was really only after that, the kiss scene really is. It was like season 2, because it was a little part. So like here and there, but I remember it was that episode because then it was like, that's when it was like everything changed. Cause like, it was like the Anti-Defamation League reached out and like had me and my wife and a couple other people from the cast come out to DC to speak at the Kennedy Center, about, anti-bullying. And I remember like being on stage, like rehearsing at the Kennedy Center all of a sudden, put up in a nice hotel or in Washington, D.C. And I was like, this is different than waiting tables. And I remember being at like a very exclusive, like fancy dinner behind, like backstage, like with all the, investors and patrons, or I guess, of the Kennedy Center. And I thought I'd be like a fly on the wall, just like watching everyone. But it was like all of them had just seen that episode and were like coming up to the table and just like, oh my God, like you were so good, or I cried, or me and my son finally talked because of that scene. It was like all this. I was like, whoa, like this is a game changer, So it was really that. And then from then on, it was kind of like that. And but it was very, very cool because I had gone from being like the hated guy on the show, also cool because you're still making people feel something and you have, you're on the show, but to that point where it was like people just confiding in me, like these crazy, like, deep, dark secrets that they weren't really telling people. Right. And they just resonated with my character and therefore me. And were just telling me all this, all these amazing, inspiring stories about how it's helped them or saved their lives or stopped them from committing suicide or brought them together with their dad or mom, brother or sister. So it was amazing. And then getting to tell the writers and Ryan Murphy about that and share those messages, it was just like, look at what we're doing. So that kind of changed just my whole perspective on media anyway, where it was like, oh, I want to be an actor. And I was like, whoa, like the power that like we show up at Paramount and shoot. And then like 3 weeks later, like, I know this is going out to like, 15 million people and like, it's changing lives and making people rethink, the way that they go about their day and who they are and who their family is. Like, it was really, really something special. And that's where it was like, this is going to be hard to top. And it has been. I mean, Chicago 7's cool. Sully's cool. It's like, it is cool, but it's like, yeah, that show, like at that time in the world, was just amazing. And then, you know, we were like winning award. I remember like the night of my 25th birthday, we won the Golden Globe for like best ensemble.
Yeah, best
Um,
series. Exactly.
and huh?
Yeah, best comedy series.
Best comedy, right? And I was like literally turning 25 like at midnight, and like it was like one of those surreal things of like Ryan Gosling is like, you know, my hero, like major man crush. Like I think he's great. I saw him in The Believer, which was like before he was like Ryan Gosling, when I was like, that dude is such a good actor. Like if you haven't seen it, see it. He plays a Jewish kid who grew up Jewish but becomes a Nazi.
Right.
And it's really powerful, and he's phenomenal in it. And you can see like his auditions online, and very inspirational. Anyway, so me and Jen, like before Weinstein, you know, we knew what was going on. The Weinstein party was like the party at the Globes. And so we walked into that. And I remember like we followed like Steve Buscemi in with like 8 girls, you know, on his arms, and just like every celebrity you can imagine. And we walked in, and Ryan Gosling was at this booth surrounded by like Olivia Wilde and Claire Danes and Kate Bosworth. And I'm like, you know, I just won the Globe, and I'm going to go over there and just like say something. And I went, and I was like, you know, excuse me, Mr. Gosling. And what was so crazy is he looked up and he was like, wait, aren't you the gay bully from Glee? And I was like, yes, like, yes, I am. And he's like, oh, I watched that show with my sister. And I was like, whoa, like, this is crazy. So that was nuts. And then I was like, I'm going to be like 25 in 10 minutes. And like Darren, you know, Darren Chris, like he came like running over, and we had champagne. And all of a sudden I was just like, you know, cheersing, doing champagne. It was like 25. And I was like, we just won the Golden Globe. And I was like, it's just like, I could die happy now. You know, it was like, it does not get cooler than that moment. So that was very, very cool. Huh?
That you live for and that you do the hard work for it to celebrate like that.
That was like, yeah, all those like the nights crying, and like the nights like, you know, like getting lost in LA and like freeways, running out of gas, and like all the, you know, like getting fired from jobs, overdrawing the account, right? All that to like culminate to that moment was very, very cool, you know. So, and then get to share it with Jen and my friends. And anyway, it was a wild time. But
And I think
that was the game-changing moment of like what we're putting out there really does change lives. And it was like, it makes everything else kind of seem smaller after you do that, you know.
I think that's why it resonated with people, because it gave the bully motivation for why he was doing what he was doing, and people empathized with him. You know, suddenly you took a stereotype and you spun it on its head, and you got to take on that great responsibility of portraying that groundbreaking role, which is amazing. I mean, you'll always have that, and it was
Always have that. And you're right, because again, at that time, this is when, you know, Anderson Cooper and Ellen, you know, everyone was talking about cyberbullying. It was this new thing where, you know, it was just like people were on, you know, Facebook and Twitter constantly harassing, you know, all hours of the night. It was that whole realization of like, oh, like bullying doesn't just happen in schools anymore.
right.
Like now it's following you home in your computer. And, you know, it was like this pandemic really of teen suicides because of that. And so, yeah, all of a sudden to get to like play the bully, but then like make everyone look at bullies in a different way of like why they're doing what they're doing. And like, oh, maybe they're insecure. Maybe
Right.
they're a little jealous that you can be yourself. Maybe they've got issues. And it kind of turned everything. And again, that is, I mean, yeah, it was like Dr. Drew had me on his show, and like Dr. Phil. And it was like, I was on, you know, Billy Bush and Access Hollywood, and talking about that, because it was like, that was the conversation kind of going on.
Incredible.
So yeah, a very weird thing to like, yeah, to kind of go from like 0 to 60, and not really even 60, because I wasn't even, you know, I never knew I was on that show for a long period of time. There was never a contract. There was never a discussion. I was like, to the outside world, I was like, I was in, but I was just like, I don't know if I'm ever going to be like invited back. Like, I don't know. So it was this very weird, like in limbo thing, you know?
Yeah, you just kept doing good work and they kept bringing you back.
That was it.
You mentioned, you know, season 1, Glee won the Golden Globe for Best Comedy Series. Season 2, Glee won the Golden Globe for Best Comedy Series. Also, season 2, Jane Lynch won for Best Supporting Actress, and Chris Colfer won for Best Supporting Actress. Probably for your episode, the Prom Queen.
No, he's great at every episode, but thank you.
That was super dramatic. You know, he tries to get you to come out and you cry to him, and he ends up winning Prom Queen. You know, they kind of make fun of him, and you get Prom King, and it was powerful stuff for a teen TV show, you know. And
Yeah.
you know, some of the other things Glee also won the SAG Award for Best Ensemble in a Comedy Series, similar to
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
Chicago 7. It was nominated 2011, 12, 13. People's Choice Award for Favorite New Show. then season 2 People's Choice Award for favorite comedy, and then it won the Teen Choice Award 4 years in a row for choice TV comedy, 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013. So the point is, it resonated with a lot of people, all
Yeah.
ages. And it wasn't just, didn't just get good ratings; it got awards, which is like
The dream.
yeah, exactly.
Double win. I know. And now what's crazy too is that there's like this new generation of people that are discovering the show, I think, because of like being at home in the pandemic, and they're like, oh, I just started the show on Netflix, and like I never knew, or it's like people, like whether it's through Cameo or social media, like they're 13, 14, 15, and it's like, I see comments or like, the messages or whatever it is about like, oh, thank you, you saved my life. But I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, that means you were like 3, when the show came out. So it's like really this whole new generation of parents and kids now, I think, are like watching this show together, that are rediscovering it because of Netflix. So it's really cool. It's kind of found this whole other life.
Yeah.
Now the opposite of that, the flip side is it can't go without saying that we've obviously lost, 3 cast members and crew members, and everyone's life. People have had kids, and it's just been really, really weird to like look back at that time and like where we all were to now, and just like the great moments, but also the tragedies and everything that the world has lost.
Yeah,
Since then. It's been nuts.
we used to hang out with Corey Monteith and Mark Salling, and they've both passed away, which is crazy to even say still. And Naya Rivera in July passed away tragically. And Naya, you guys actually were scene partners because you were each other's beards. The character
Right.
secretly a lesbian, you were secretly gay, so you decided
Yeah, she was my prom date.
it was the
Yeah.
prom day, and you guys were going to win prom king and prom
Yeah.
queen. That was the goal. I feel like when these tragedies happen, the cast seems to be like a family that comes together and supports each other and lifts each other up. What has that been like for you? That it's the world is kind of mourning the loss of someone that for you was a friend and a coworker. What has that been like losing those 3 friends?
It's hard to put into words. I mean, just surreal. Like it still does not feel real. It's like you hear their voices or see them on TV, or, I know GLAD just honored Naya, and you're just like, that really did happen, huh? Like that's real. Like that. I'm not waking up from that. And then, the whole world kind of validates that is the case. But yeah, I reconnect with several of the cast members, and, call them up and text and swap stories, and just, like things that, she said that we never knew about, or, dreams or goals that, any of them had. And, you just kind of bond like you would have, any family or friend, passes away. You kind of just tell all the old stories, and, share some tears, and, share some laughs about the good times. And it's just kind of like, just process that, again, tomorrow is promised to nobody. And it's like, I mean, all of them, died in very tragic circumstances, and kind of very quickly. And, and wasn't like a big, long, drawn out thing. And they're so young. And obviously, Naya left behind a child, which to me even resonates stronger now, about what that must be like. So, it's really tough. And so it's like, it's kind of this tainted thing of, you look back on GLEE now, and you're just like, it's so weird, because like every scene you watch has one of them in it, and it's just like they're gone from the world. So it's very, very weird. It's like something that you think like, oh, like 70 years from now, we'll all get together at a reunion, and it's like it hasn't even been like 10, and it's just already been like just tragic. So yeah,
And
just
their
sad.
work, their work lives on when they pass away. People, post videos and scenes from the show and musical numbers, and it's interesting how their work can live on forever through clips from Glee. And
Yeah, and in a way, it can, bonds everyone over that shared loss, and what everyone, what people meant to them, and how it changed their lives. And you're right, the fact that they made their mark on the world, that young, and that they will live on, and everything that they did for the world and for that show and for people, obviously it's powerful and amazing, and better than not having left any mark on the world. But yeah, that's to friends and to family. It's like, that's great, but to not get to see them again at the next, birthday party, or the next, time, but we go to Darren's bar and everyone's supposed to be there and they're not.
yeah.
That's always, it's just going to sting, forever. But yeah.
And so your character David Krofsky would pop up every season, and they'd bring him back here and there, and all the way through the final season, season 6, and
Yeah, yeah.
came full circle because you had a crush on Kurt, Kurt like Blaine, and then in the end, Blaine and David Krofsky, Blaine played by,
I ended up dating
ended up dating. And you're
and living together. Yeah. A weird storyline. Nobody saw that one coming either, but fun because by that point, me and Darren were very, very close friends, and it was just like, what is going on? Like, cool, okay, like here we go, and we were just got to shoot together and have that fun, and I knew it was never gonna last because it was like really, it was always meant to be, Darren and Chris.
yeah.
But again, just to kind of play, like good guy, still bad, like he's a good guy now, but like now he's still kind of like the villain and the bad guy getting in the way of like that true romance. Was just fun to play, but. The first 3 seasons were certainly the most impactful and meaningful, to me, and I think to most people.
Yeah.
But super fun to get to keep doing it, and again, just show up at Paramount and be with friends making that series was just a blast.
Yeah, and I thought it was cool because, like you said, you and Darren Chris are good friends in real life. I'm friends with him too. He's so talented, so nice. I've thrown parties at Tramp Stamp Granny's, his piano.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah,
90s nights and stuff. Yeah, and
yeah.
great success too. He's gone on to win awards for the Versace.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, no, he's a star. He's doing great. I mean, yeah, we all knew, right? I mean, the first day, actually, really weird that because Darren's first day, I think The Social Network had just come out, and so the big thing we bonded over was that we just saw Social Network. And we were kind of like nerding out about it on the way to set. So again, crazy full circle. And I think he like auditioned for Abby Hoffman too, because I remember when I was telling him all about it, he was like, "Oh man, like I think I'm gonna go in for that." And I'm like, "Oh, you'd be perfect. You had like the hair." And I was like, "What if we're in a Sorkin movie together? Like we met talking about Social Network, So it's just one of those things. But I'm sure we'll work together again. And he's just amazing and talented. So yeah.
It was a great place for people to start out and show their talent and a springboard for a long. And
well, again, and it's all about in the business. It's more in Hollywood. It's like I feel like a lot of people in the business were watching that show.
Oh, yeah.
It was like producers, cast and director. It was one of those things of like it was immediate like cred and validation. Where like, oh, if I was on like Ghost Whisperer, it's like okay, cool, but like so were 5,000 others. But like it's like if you were on Glee, I feel like it was like doors opened up and I got a lot more opportunities, for agents, for auditions. Like that was the game changer, strictly because. Like people just, if you didn't watch it, which was more rare at that time than not, great, you knew about it or you heard about it or you saw some clip. So again, that was where it was very cool to be a part of that because you were like, all right, like this is hopefully the end of working in restaurants for a bit,
Sure. And Glee, everyone wanted to be on it. It always had huge guest stars, Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yeah. Britney Spears, Ricky Martin, John Stamos, who's amazing, Kristen Chenoweth. The list goes on. Yeah. Idina Menzel. Yeah, it's crazy.
Major. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. While Glee was still on, you actually got to do another show simultaneously. You were on Switched at Birth on Freeform. Again, you played a football player, but very different time. His name is Hank. What was that like going from Glee to Switched at Birth?
Really cool, really great. It was amazing to get to do both at the same time and kind of like jump in and out of both roles. But great because I just didn't feel a pressure to like prove that I was good, I guess. Like I felt like, okay, like I'm an actor. I've been on a show for a few years. Like I actually belong here now instead of like, ooh, like, sorry, like I hope I don't mess up and I hope I hit my mark or like that kind of imposter syndrome. Yeah. So it was a little bit more of like a safe space, I feel like, for me to like kind of play and not like have like the tension of like, oh my God, like I hope I do right. I hope I do good. And just Glee again, towards the middle, towards the end, like after the awards and money and everyone's doing their thing, there's relationship things and tension and egos and that happens and everyone's young and famous and but Switched at Birth was just a more chill vibe. It was just like, hey, like whatever, like we've all been around, we're all working, so I guess just more like relaxed and more chill. I loved working with everyone in that cast. And I loved the role too, because again, yeah, he appears, it was like just the complicated like dichotomy of the guy, which I was like so lucky to play because he came on as just like the class clown, frat boy football player.
Right.
And then me and Vanessa Morano, who was my co-star, who played Bay, we ended up having this relationship, on the show. And the creator, Lizzie Weiss, I guess, liked our chemistry. And so she kind of kept writing for me too, the roles, episodes that weren't supposed to be mine, and kind of created this storyline based on what was happening in real life, which was college rape accusations and scandals. And so again, I found myself like in the middle of this controversial storyline, and like, oh man, like how do I play this and talk about this in interviews, without saying the wrong thing? And usually you can't. But that was a really, again, just a big honor to get to play something very real, that kind of reflected the storylines of the day, and again, to have episodes that I didn't know I was going to have when I initially joined the cast. So kind of flattering.
Yeah, so your character came back for 3 seasons on Switched at Birth through the end of that show too. So you had a nice steady thing going with those two characters. And then
Yeah.
after Glee and Switched at Birth, I just want to rattle off some credits. You did Bones, Criminal Minds, The Flash, Mom, Shameless, 911, The Rookie, just to name a few. All different genres, comedies, dramas, dramedies. You kind of got to do it all.
Bouncing around. Johnny Drama.
Yeah, exactly. Like doing something like Mom, which is a multicam sitcom. That goes back to like theater.
Oh, yeah, that was great. I mean, I did Young and the Restless, which is like a soap. Like I played in all these mediums, and those are great because that is where, like, there's a live audience and you have, the 4 cameras, you're moving quickly, like it's fun. I'm working with Anna Faris and Allison Janney, who had just won the Oscar for I, Tonya, I think like the week before. And I had just seen her like at an Oscars party. And then I was like, oh, I just got this part playing like a cop. And she's like, oh, great. Yeah. Just crazy, so super fun. And yes, very, very theatrical, to get to just play in that little space and like feel the camaraderie of like, with Glee, it was like, you talk to who you were in the scenes with, and then if you didn't see that person you were in the scene with, you may not see them for 4 months, or you didn't even read that script, or they didn't even know that scene was a thing because they only read their part. But with Mom or Big Bang Theory, it's like everyone, like you get together with the whole cast beforehand, you speed read the whole script, you're all on the same page, what's filming, you're next, like you're really like a team. And that was a great, great feeling. And that really did take me back to, high school theater. And it's just so fun, live. And you're working with Chuck Lorre and, you're working with like the best of the best.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun.
You mentioned Big Bang Theory. I should have mentioned that one too. That was like the #1 show on TV at the time too.
Yeah.
And, I always say, I think the multicam sitcom schedule is the best schedule in Hollywood.
Oh yeah.
Come in,
especially now because again with Glee, it was just like, oh, your call time's like 1 a.m. on Thursday, and then 4 a.m. on Saturday. You're like, what? Like you can't. There's never any consistency or stability. You're just kind of at beholden to where the location is, what the weather is, like what everyone's schedule is. But right, with a sitcom or a soap, it's like the same studio, the same lot, the same parking space, and it's like, yeah, Monday, it's like a little table read, you're done. Tuesday, Wednesday, come in your pajamas, have some breakfast. Let's just rehearse it lightly, and then like we'll shoot some scenes Thursday, and then Friday, like night, we'll do like the show, and then you're done. So it's like a light schedule. It's fun. It's quick. It's, stable. So like, yeah, now like with a kid, I would kill to be on like a sitcom and just have like a normal schedule and like and be able to plan for weeks and months in advance. Like that's the dream, plus you're getting to make people laugh and, work with it's like an intimate, cast and crew. And it's just a blast. It's a lot of fun.
Those are my favorite shows always growing up, were the multicam sitcoms. And also, they're multicam for a reason. It's getting, 3 cameras on everything at once. It's getting everything. Right. Whereas when you do single cam, you have to do it over and over from every angle. It's just like, it's quick.
Well, that's the biggest change now. Like post-pandemic, I've shot NCIS and I shot All Rise, which, yeah, that's the whole story. But that's what's crazy now is that it's become multicam in a way where there's like 4 cameras going, like one's close up, one's the medium 2 shot, one's the wide master. So it's like they're all going because they want to get you like in and out quickly. Like they want the masks back on, they want the distance. So it's also a really interesting thing. Like in a drama now, I'm like finding it's like very, very few takes because they just want to cover everything and get it and like move on and get you masked up, which you feel safe and it's great, but it's kind of changed, like, oh, this is gonna take 4 hours to film this scene. And now it's just like, that's it. Like we're just gonna get 2 takes. Like it's like a Clint Eastwood movie now, doing like a CBS procedural. So it's crazy.
So you mentioned All Rise. So last night while I was preparing for this interview, I'm
Yeah.
looking at my computer and I'm typing up and I'm doing my research and I'm writing everything. And I suddenly, hear a familiar voice and I look up and on the TV is Max Adler. I was like, what are the chances that the person I'm writing about right now, I'm going to
So
look.
weird.
And it just happened because I'm visiting my family in Jersey right now. So my parents were watching All Rise. It happened to be on TV. Like I was like, what are the chances that what they happen to be watching and who's going to be on when I look up is also who I'm writing about and interviewing tomorrow on the podcast. So it was wild that it was your episode of All Rise. It was a new episode. It was like the first.
Yeah.
It was wild.
Yeah.
So
Meant to be. Really weird.
totally. That's
Yeah.
totally a sign. Another
Yeah.
sign in the universe. But you mentioned this too. You mentioned Clint Eastwood. What was that like doing Sully with Clint Eastwood and Tom Hanks? Because that's based on the true story of Sully Sullenberger, the pilot who landed the plane in the Hudson River. I was flying to the Sundance Film Festival that same day, so all over
Whoa.
the news was a story about a plane in
Whoa.
water, and people
Yeah.
didn't know where it was yet. So people were like, "Oh my God!" Last time we spoke to Brett, he was taking off for Sundance. So I remember landing and people being like, "Are you okay?" It was a crazy day. What was that like
Whoa.
doing a Tom Hanks, Clint Eastwood movie?
Again, I mean, the dream. It was like, it gets crazy, and I want to run out of time. I know I've taken up so much. So I'm sorry, you and the viewers, but real quick, I have to say the story. So after Switch to Birth and after Glee, like when they're running, in tandem, they both ended. And, I had a savings and I was really curious about New York. And so we kind of kept our place in LA and we went to New York for like 9 months just to like see what it was all about.
Yeah.
While there, I happened to get an audition for a Woody Allen movie, Cafe Society. Auditioned for Woody. Like the first thing was like go in for the casting directors, do a monologue. And I remember I was going in for like some tough guy, like on the streets. But right before me was the kid from A Bronx Tale, like the son. And I was like, oh, like that is like a tough guy from New York. Like, what am I doing here? So I was like, oh my God. But I went in there, did my thing. Casting directors were fans of Glee. So they saw me, they liked me. And then like 3 weeks later, I heard they're going to bring me in for a callback to read for Woody Allen. And that like, he doesn't usually like to see you read. He'll just like ask you some questions, like talk to you and like get a vibe. And I was like, about what? Like, what am I supposed to say to? They're like, oh, don't worry about it. It's this process. Like, he'll gauge, if you're right for it. I was like, what the hell? Of course, I show up. Of course, there's a cold read, and of course, I find myself like in this big like theater room in New York, and I'm reading just like this. Like me and a casting director are cold reading this scene. And Woody's process is that he decides like he like stands and he's like circling. He's like looking around, seeing what's going on. And so like you're trying to stay in the scene, but meanwhile you see, Woody Allen like circling like a shark. So very intimidating, very cool. Got the part. End up shooting in LA. At that point, it was Bruce Willis. Woody and Bruce didn't really get along well. That's a whole other story for a whole other podcast. But I was right there. I was privy to. I was just sitting at midnight in the Pacific Palisades at a house party in the 20s, and it's me and Woody and Bruce Willis. And
Amazing.
2 days later, Bruce drops out for scheduling conflicts and is replaced by Steve Carell. And they want me to reshoot the scenes with Steve Carell. Great. In between that time, I had auditioned for Sully, and then find out that I got the part in Sully. And of course, when I need to be shooting Sully in New York, Woody's day is in LA. And so my agent was like, good news, bad news. He's like, you're in a Clint Eastwood movie, but you're going to have to drop out of the Woody Allen movie. And I was like, what? Like, of all the days I'm sitting around with nothing to do, like these two guys needed me on the same day on different coasts. And it's like, so I had to write to Woody Allen, and his assistant. And I'm just like, I am so sorry. Like, I can't believe I'm writing this, but like, I can't do your movie because I'm doing Clint Eastwood's movie. And it was like a really crazy, surreal, nutty thing. But I got to work with Woody. And then Clint was amazing because I was 3 weeks in New York and then a couple weeks here, like in the back lot of Universal, where they had like a real plane on a real body of water. And it was just, Tom Hanks, and we're sitting in like the first class section of the plane and talking politics and life and, his movies. And, Clint is just a legend, and, he knows what he's doing. And, it's quick takes, and maybe he shoots the rehearsal. So much energy. He's there before all of us. He's there working out on his breaks. We wrap, we're exhausted. He goes out to an event. Like, he's just a legend. He's just a beast. Like, so nice, so humble, so experienced, so willing to pass on advice.
Yeah.
So again, really cool to be telling a true story and to get to work with those people and watch them in action and see how humble and modest and amazing they are. And it's like, really, like, the best of the best are all usually like the nicest people, because they know that they're good at what they do, and they don't have to like put on airs or like show something. You know what I mean? Right. It's really nice.
They're happy with where they are in life.
Yeah, like they've worked hard and they've earned it, and they don't have to be an asshole. And it was just amazing just to like, you're so intimidated, but then you sit with them, and again, it feels like you're like sitting around like a high school play. You're all just playing pretend. You're all telling the same story, and you're all showing up to the same place. Like, you have the same piece of paper. Like, you're a team. Like, everyone has to depend on everyone else to like hit your marks, say your lines, and it's like all of a sudden like you're all equals. And then it wraps, and we're not equals, but in that brief moment, the world goes away, and it's like, that's not Tom Hanks. Like, that's Captain Sully. And like, he's looking at me, telling me to like get like a lifeboat. And it's like, okay. And you just believe it, and it's like those brief moments of like magic in between like real life is just like what I live for, and like why I keep doing what I'm doing,
Amazing. Yeah. It doesn't get much bigger in the acting world than Tom Hanks, or in the directing world is Clint Eastwood, right?
No, that was the best of the best,
Amazing. And that's because it's a true story, very similar to Trial of Chicago 7. And you're just like, you're building.
Yeah, and again, and to shoot in the, like, we were shooting in New York, like in the water, in the Hudson River where it was happening. And like a lot of the people, like the Red Cross volunteers, or like, like the SWAT guys, coming in on the rescue from the helicopter, we're all real people. Like Clint brought back or like the real ferry boat, captain who like saved people. They were all there, like, telling their side of the story, and we got to hear from them and work with them. We met Captain Sully, and his wife, and the flight attendants, and it's just like, the experiences I've been fortunate enough to have in this career have been pretty wild.
Yeah, that's why it's good to look back like this sometimes and be like, I have done some really cool.
Yeah, like it's not as bad as I thought it was when I woke up this morning. No, right. It's nice. Yeah.
So what's next for Max Adler? What would you like to do next? Because you've done so much, but you still have so much more to do.
Yeah, I mean, auditioning for the next big role, but that's always hard and a fluke and random. But I'm really very busy producing, like between the projects I'm trying to find money for. There's a project that my wife and it's like my wife's idea, and we kind of worked on it for a couple of years. We gave it to a writer, and the writer wrote it. This is when I took to David Arquette, and like, I'm very, very passionate about making this, and I can put the pieces together with directors I know, or actors, or money. So I really want to make that happen. There's 2 other scripts, like one TV show, one movie that me and producing partners have optioned to a company, and we're out to like directors and out to showrunners. So it's really just like that, like kind of creating my own work, telling the stories I want to tell, making things happen for myself, both as a producer and a storyteller, and also as an actor, while auditioning for parts that I really want. And then really, being a dad, like that really is taking up so much of my mental space and time, and I love it, and I want to be the best at it, and I want to give him the best life he can have. And so that's been a blast as well. So it's kind of just juggling those things, but that's kind of the goal, to be a good dad, and find more success in the career, and tell great, powerful stories that can change lives and change the way people think, and have fun while doing it.
Yeah, that came full circle where we started that conversation.
There we go.
We're trying to make some things happen together too. We're going to make a movie. It didn't work out with Trial of Chicago 7, but it'll work.
No, but we're talking about another big one that there was also a weird sign from that might have popped up on Final Jeopardy for you as we were talking to an investor about the exact storyline, the exact director, and there's something there. So I'm not going to give up hope about that one yet. That could be huge, but you and I will collaborate on something beyond the PSA we did before, and it'll be huge.
Right. Yeah. But my mom's always said, since I'm a little kid, she's always said, "Make it happen." That's like her catchphrase with me.
Yeah, good. That's amazing. Right, make it happen. And look, the life you've created, the people that the fact that you took over LA nightlife, and everyone, you drop your name and everyone knows you. It's like you really have made it happen. So congratulations to you. It's an honor to know you and have known you for all these years. And can't wait to see what else you do. I know you have a script that's really good, that's getting some traction. So maybe you'll put me in that. But yeah, you're kicking ass. So keep on thriving.
Appreciate that. So
Yeah.
before we go, I always like to ask my guests, what advice do you have for someone who dreams of having a career like yours?
I would say the three P's, which is persistence, passion, and patience. And I would say do something, one thing every day that takes you closer to your goal. So like, whether it was reading a book about acting, whether it was looking at an interview, whether it was watching a movie, taking a class, just something to just keep you on track, to keep your focus on where you want to go. It's a very easy town to get distracted in, with social life and pressures and parties and losing hope and giving up. I think if you just try to hit one thing every day, it just kind of keeps you on a mission to achieve, greatness, to be where you want to be.
Yeah, that's great advice. And the very last thing we do here at On the List is called the mystery question, where the guest from my last podcast leaves a question for my next guest. And they don't.
Whoa.
Yeah, so I've been doing this since episode 1. And so you'll get this mystery question that was written for episode 64. And then
Okay.
you'll leave one for my next guest, whoever that may be. So the guest on my last podcast was Brad Furman. He directed the new movie City of Lies with
Yeah.
John and Forrest Whitaker. It's now the #1 movie on iTunes. He also
Right.
directed Lincoln Lawyer, a bunch of other things. So Brad emailed me a mystery question. It was printed and sealed in an envelope for you.
Did he know that I'm the next guest, or it's just for any guest? Okay.
That's part of the mystery.
Okay.
So, Brad Furman's question for my next guest. When you achieved your dream, did it feel how you expected it would? And if not, please explain why.
That's a great question. That's deep. And yes, it did. It's beyond, really. I think, my mind automatically went to Glee and like being like sitting in that trailer, prepping for that kiss scene. And yeah, it just kind of was just like, again, it was like, for my mom, it was like everything that kind of culminated, like all the hard work, all the pain, the sacrifice, whatever I've, given up to get here, was just like, I'm in a trailer at Paramount Studios in Hollywood on the biggest TV show with a huge storyline. It's almost like knowing like Santa Claus is real and like keeping it secret. I was like, I can't believe like I'm sitting on this. And it felt great when it came out and, it impacted people the way it did. So yeah, it's very fulfilling. And I'll add the corny ending, which was like, I often said like being on set, just like being in those moments. Like I said, when you escape and I'm sitting there with Tom Hanks, it's like, that was just like my happy place, where it's like nothing else, the news, fights, whatever's going on. I'm like, if I'm doing that, I'm happy. But I will say to people now with a kid that my son has become my happy place. And it like the family now does that to me. And it kind of changes your perspective on the business and the work. And then you kind of realize like a whole new thing, like there's like a whole new shift in that. But all of that is to say that I've had those experiences and that has all led me to this. So yes, it feels pretty great. And congratulations to Brad on everything he's accomplished. And I hope everyone else gets to know what it feels like to live their dream, because life is short and it's tough. And, I hope everyone gets to do what they want to do to make them happy.
Amazing. What a great way to end the podcast. And so you'll send me a question for my next guest, whoever that may be. And that is a wrap on episode 64. Thank you.
Nicely done.
Like that. Thank you, Max, for being here. Be sure to check out The Trial of Chicago 7 on Netflix. Tune into the Oscars Sunday, April 25th to find out which awards it wins. And, go back and binge Glee and switch.
Yeah.
See what Max does next. I can't wait to see. It's going to be
Well,
great.
thank you. Thanks everyone for your time. And thank you, Brett, for everything you've done for me and my life over the last decade. Much love to you.
Appreciate that. Thank you for doing this. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And I will talk to you next time. Bye.
Bye.
I wanted to take a minute to talk about the sponsors of On the List: Hint Water, eBay, and Magic Spoon cereal. So first we've got Hint Water. I've got some of my favorite flavors right here. Here's the watermelon, the strawberry kiwi, raspberry, pineapple, and I also love the crisp apple blood orange, lemon, pear, clementine. I love all the flavors. So what's really cool about Hint is that there's no sugar, no diet sweeteners, no calories, no preservatives, and it's non-GMO certified. It's also vegan, contains no nuts, no soy, no gluten, no MSG. And so Hint is offering home delivery when you sign up on the Hint website, drinkhint.com. And they're offering new customers 36 bottles for $36 if you use the code NEW36 at checkout, NEW36. So go to drinkhint.com and use the code NEW36 at checkout. And next we've got eBay. So if you like vintage sneakers as much as I do, eBay is the place for you. Here's a pair right here. Here's another pair right here. So what's cool about eBay is that they've got rare dead stock, but they've also got the latest releases, and you can find the exact pair that you're looking for on eBay. So it was actually the original sneaker marketplace, and it's still the place to go to get the pair you've been looking for. So eBay has an authenticity guarantee, and they also have a team of independent professional authenticators performing rigorous inspections of the sneakers that you purchase before they're sent to you. So you can shop confidently knowing that your pair is the real deal. And for sneaker sellers out there, eBay eliminated selling fees on sneakers over $100. So it's free to sell or flip your collection. Other sites take 25%, but eBay waived the fee. So check out ebay.com/sneakers today. And last but not least, Magic Spoon cereal. So Magic Spoon cereal is one of my favorite cereals. There it is right there. This is the peanut butter flavor. So, if you've tried to cut back on sugar or carbs or unhealthy foods in general, then Magic Spoon's the answer for you. So they've got frosted, blueberry, cocoa. I mix the cocoa with the peanut butter, so you have peanut butter and chocolate. I also mix the frosted with the blueberry. And they've also got a fruity flavor. And everyone I've told Magic Spoon about has gotten hooked on it. So the best thing about Magic Spoon cereal, besides the fact that it tastes so good, is 0 sugar. No sugar at all, even though it tastes great. It's also low carb, only 3 grams, so it's keto friendly. And it's high in protein, 11 grams per serving. So it's got everything you need, and it excludes all the stuff you don't, and it's just really good. So if you go to magicspoon.com/Brett, BRETT, you can make your own variety pack of 4 flavors. You can choose from frosted, blueberry, fruity, cocoa, peanut butter, and whatever new flavors they have to offer. Then just use the code BRETT, BRETT, at checkout for free shipping. So go to magicspoon.com/Brett and then use the code BRETT, BRETT, at checkout for free shipping. And I will see you guys next time.